Shall we all take our seats, ladies and gentlemen, so we can start? A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today. To give you a brief outline of today's MSME Conclave. MSMEs contribute to 30% of India's GDP and almost 50% of India's export. They are the second largest employers after agriculture. No wonder they are considered to be the backbone of the Indian economy. Ladies and gentlemen, what is today? Today is International MSME Day, and we must offer them a big round of applause for all their contribution. Yes, please give it the most deserved round of applause. My name is Usha Melwani, and it is an immense honor for me to welcome you all to the Hindu BusinessLine MSME Growth Conclave. This exclusive conclave will celebrate micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises as they emerge stronger from the aftermath of COVID-19 and will discuss in detail how MSMEs can be integrated more closely to the India growth story and how they can reimagine their business by leveraging technology and innovation. Very warm welcome to a discussion on leveraging AI for MSME growth and how they can manage their finances. With this, I now request Mr. Vinay Kamath, Senior Associate Editor, The Hindu BusinessLine, to please join me on stage and welcome the gathering. Let's hear it for him, please.
Welcome you to the third edition of the BusinessLine MSME Conclave, which we have hosted at the same venue for the past 3 years. Unfortunately, the editor of BusinessLine, Mr. Raghuveer Srinivasan, couldn't be present today, and he sends you all his greetings. But I must also thank you all for making it on a very busy day, battling the Bangalore traffic and getting here on time for the conclave. So thank you very much for that. And we're here to celebrate the International MSME Day, and it falls today, so it's a good day to have. So we will have two stimulating panel discussions, which we hope will be fodder for thought for MSMEs and entrepreneurs. And thank you, Mr. Ganesh, for participating in this conclave. I'm sure your vast years of experience as an entrepreneur will be of great learning for our audience here today. As we all know, MSMEs are the backbone of industry and enterprise in the Indian growth story. Recent data show that there are 6.3 crore MSMEs employing 11 crore people all over the country. And as we all know, MSMEs are the crucial growth drivers of the economy, contributing 30% of India's GDP and 45% of the country's exports. As a tribute to the contribution of small businesses and entrepreneurs, BusinessLine has been hosting these conclaves to be a fount of ideas and thought to expose MSMEs to the next best practices for them to follow. BusinessLine as a newspaper has from its inception been reporting intensively and extensively on MSMEs, as well as the startup economy and their contributions to India's growth. So we hope you'll have many takeaways and questions to ask of the panelists from the two stimulating sessions we have planned for you. Our best wishes to all of you, and I hope you enjoyed these sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that, sir. With this, I'd like to now invite Mr. Venkatesha Babu, Chief of News Bureau, BusinessLine Bengaluru, to please join me on stage, share a few words, and introduce our chief guest to you all.
time to be here with us. Let me list out 3 specific reasons why the appreciation is all the more genuine. This is not an evening of a weekend. This is a work day on a Thursday for all of you to turn up, braving Bangalore's notorious traffic. The rain gods have been kind enough, at least till now. Let's see how it progresses. Third, of course, is the most important reason. Cricket is akin to religion in India, and on a day when India is playing England on the semi-finals, to see this many amount of people turn up for this conclave, really appreciate all of you doing so. Thank you so much, and welcome once again. I won't make the foolhardy attempt of trying to introduce Krishnan Ganesh, or Ganesh as all of us call him. Let me start off by relating a personal anecdote on how I came across Ganesh. The year was 2000. Of course, I had a little bit hair on my head and my waist was a little bit slimmer then. Ganesh was one of the earliest players in the BPO business back then. It used to be called as customer asset. And they used to have an office, if I remember right, Ganesh, on very close to those who are familiar with Bangalore, at the small office near Sajjan Rao Circle, right? So I was a reporter back then with a different media house. I went to meet him. The office might have been small, but after having a conversation with him, the vision, the belief, the dynamism which he exhibited blew me away. I knew that this was somebody who was out to make a change. Customer asset, of course, today is known as, it has undergone many identity changes. Today it is listed as ICICI First Source, okay? And that was not even his first venture. It's actually, he had already a decade back in 1990 at the age of 29, had already started a technology service provider called as IT&T, which was eventually acquired by iGate. Of course, subsequent to both this, he started a company called as Marketex, which was acquired by WNS. Then he also, if I remember right, I'm just trying to remember the chronology. I don't want to get that wrong with Ganesh in the audience. Then subsequently, we know today the edtech sector has a little bit of a bad rep because of all the shenanigans which have happened with a few players. Ganesh was actually a very, very early seer of what edtech could deliver. He started Tutor Vista, subsequently sold it for $213 million to Pearson. Yeah, I'm not going to stand here and list all the companies he has successfully built and scaled. The point I'm trying to make is, people like Ganesh are labeled as serial entrepreneurs. I beg to differ a little bit. I call him as a serial parallel entrepreneur. Let me explain what it actually means. He's somebody who actually simultaneously dabbles in so many businesses. When I use the word dabbles, probably misleadingly. He is fully involved in all of these businesses, as can be envisaged by the fact that he's the founder, director, promoter of several well-known ventures, including Big Basket. I'm sure that at least 3/4 in the room here either are customers of Big Basket or have used Big Basket, Portia Medical, Blue Lane, huge, apart from being an angel investor. He also actually teaches both at ISB and IIMB. I don't know how he finds the time to juggle all these roles. During the COVID pandemic, in order to give back, he actually set up a foundation called as Bahar, which has actually served more than 65 lakh meals to migrant laborers and others. Multifaceted, dynamic personality. Everybody says that people from the MSME sector who are here in the audience, they keep thinking themselves as dreamers. When I first met Ganesh, I realized that he was not just a dreamer. He has always been a doer also. Okay? With that short note, I could go on and on. Please join me in giving a big hand and welcoming Krishnan Ganesh on the stage. entrepreneur extraordinaire. Thank you for accepting our invitation. Please join us, sir. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure for me to be here. Thank you, Venkatesh, for the very kind introduction. As usual, is more kind than right. So, which is fine. I'll take it with in all humility. No, it's really the MSME sector. You guys are the real backbone and entrepreneurs. I don't want to. I had 4 statistics about the MSME being the backbone, but unfortunately, at the beginning, all the 4 numbers in terms of exports and employment and the percentage of contribution to GDP, all that has been told, so I would not repeat it. We also know the challenges that exist in this particular space. I do teach at IIM Bangalore and Indian School of Business, so one of my bad habits is always asking questions. How many of you here have read A Tale of Two Cities? Who's the author, by the way? Yeah, Charles Dickens. Okay, right? So this is a bad. I do have, this is an annoying habit of asking questions. I'll do that more often. I do have some good habits, but people tell me rarely I exhibit it. So that's fine. Okay. If you remember The Tale of Two Cities, it starts with very iconic words. Okay, right? It's exactly. It says, really, it was the best of the times, it was the worst of the times. It was age of lightness, it was the age of darkness, all of that stuff, it contracts. So that analogy or explanation can best apply to us today. Okay, right? And I'm saying that after having lived through nearly 3.5 decades of entrepreneurship and doing my own business. At the time, it was not called entrepreneurship, it was called a business. I remember back in 1990 when I started my first business, the concept of valuation, venture capital, none of this really existed. So at that time, I left a job. It was with Hindustan Computers Limited, well-paying job, and decided to start, jump into entrepreneurship. There was a lot of challenges at that time. As it is today, different challenges. Firstly, my mother was very concerned that how am I going to meet? I'm leaving a good job. I actually had a car from the company I was working, so I had to return the car. I was living in Delhi. There's a telephone company had given. If you know, back in 1990, telephone is a luxury. There was a 20-year wait list. So the first 2 years of my business, I was without a telephone. Okay, right? So I did business there at that time. So my mother was very unhappy that this was going away. My mother-in-law was even more unhappy. Okay, right? She said, what has happened? Has he lost the job, or is he not well? Is he got some serious sickness? All of that stuff. Obviously, from that time of being an entrepreneur to now, we have come a very long way. So, back to Charles Dickens' statement of we are best of the times and worst of the times. It's really today's opportunity that excites me. That's exciting for all of you and for me even today, looking at what's happening. What's really happening in the world today, okay, right? If I look at it in one word, the jargon that we use in management schools, again, like I said, I'll keep coming back with this habit of being a professor. We call this VUCA world. All of you have heard VUCA, V-U-C-A. It stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. VUCA. We live in a VUCA world. It's okay, right? Now that's a great acronym or jargon to say what is happening in the world today. But what's more important is that really gives us tremendous opportunity to go and conquer. When I started again back at that time, I'm sure many of you would have faced it to some level or the other. But definitely at that time, there was no concept of first generation entrepreneurs. There was no concept of service businesses. At that time, any business means it was a license Raj. You needed to have a license. And business meant you needed to have a factory, you need to have a chimney, and smoke will come out of the chimney. Okay, right? That was the only concept of business. The service, I mean, there were lawyers and chartered accountants, but that's about it. There was no other services business. Of course, now it's very, very different. The VUCA world is a great opportunity because it has democratized opportunities for all of us. All our businesses have challenges, but the opportunity today is 10 times the challenges that exist. What does VUCA world mean for us? That means everything is changing. When everything changes, it actually helps every person equally well. At that time when I started, you had to be a business family. Tatas, Birlas, conglomerates, Ambanis. You needed to get a license. You needed to be able to manage the environment, manage the bank, get a project financing done. All of those have gone to dogs completely. Today, 2 young people can start a business. You must have heard of Zepto, which is into quick commerce, which competes. Because those guys not even just in their early 20s. Okay, valued at nearly $3.5 billion now. Okay. You don't have to be anything. So the VUCA world presents us opportunities because everything is changing. What do we mean by that? Competition is changing. Who is competition? Is completely undefined, right? And you obviously have seen Uber and Ola competing with car manufacturers for car. Why do you need a car? Or a Oyo competing, or a Make My Trip competing with standard travel agents. You take any examples, hotel chains versus Oyo, Swiggy, Zomato versus restaurants. Right? Take any example and you can see the competition is coming from everywhere, it's changing. Take the classic case of cars. My first job after my engineering was in Telco, what is now known as Tata Motors. Okay. It was unthinkable that an internal combustion engine, petrol diesel engine which is there for 100 years, centuries, will actually get challenged by electric vehicles. Which is the largest electric car manufacturer in the world? Anybody? BYD. Okay, BYD, Chinese company, stands for Build Your Dreams. What were they originally manufacturing? They were never a car manufacturer. See, till this time, till 10 years back, car competition came from car manufacturers of 100 years old. Honda, hardcore engineering company. Okay, right? That is not the case now. BYD was a battery manufacturer. They were in batteries. Why? Suddenly, after 100 years, the VUCA world said, cars are not really engines. Cars are battery on wheels. Okay. If they are battery on wheels, the competition is very, very different. Who is competing? Which company invented digital photography? Anybody? Digital photography. Kodak. Kodak was the inventor of digital photography, but it's nowhere there. Photography. Right? What is digital photography today? Any reasonable lens or camera, but with huge amount of software or AI. So where do you find the best pictures or most effective pictures? Samsung. Why? Is the Samsung phone, I use the Samsung phone. Does it have the best lens? No. But what is best about it? The software behind it. What is Tesla? Tesla calls it a AI software company. Completely software driven. It happens to have wheels. It happens to have it's really connected computers on wheels is what Tesla calls itself. Autonomous driving, self-driving, all of that. So that is changing. Consumers' expectations are changing. You and I know people want grocery in 10 minutes. I for once never understood why would anybody need grocery in 10 minutes. Here, in order to cross the road in Bangalore traffic takes 10 minutes. Okay, right? It takes 1 hour to cross Silk Board Junction. Okay, right? And if you are unfortunate to be living on the outer ring road near Marthalli, you are gone. But you want grocery in 10 minutes. Okay, right? Everything else. But that's reality. And honestly, even Big Basket, one of my companies were caught off guard. We never realized people will want groceries. Now they have fully leading the charge into quick commerce. The consumer expectations are changing. When I used to be in my first job and first years, when my Sundays used to be spent in going to the bank, because that was only a holiday, to deposit all the checks, some 10 rupee, 20 rupee dividend check used to come. Used to go and deposit it and write faithfully on the counterfoil and get a passbook updated, compare my passbook with my counterfoil to see if the 10 rupees are credited. All of that was a Sunday routine. And some bank branches used to open on Sundays only for working people like me. Today, will anybody go to a bank branch? Would you reconcile your checkbook and passbook? Everything is digital. So that is the world. And that gives us a phenomenal opportunity. So let me not talk about challenges about MSME. Let's talk about what does it mean for us to be able to seize the opportunity. Okay, right? Why do I seem very bullish for entrepreneurs in general, and MSME is a hardcore part of it. Don't get carried away by the glamour, valuation, Hindu BusinessLine, or all the media reports about unicorns, 1,000 crore, 10,000 crore valuation. Those are all outliers. Those are all handful. It's glamorous. They talk about it in front page. But real entrepreneurship comes from here. Okay, right? In terms of percentage, in terms of jobs, in terms of numbers, except for the media attention, glamour. Okay. The real core entrepreneurship is MSME. That's where it comes. What do I see as the future? Today, fortunately, all ducks are aligned in one order. That's why it's the best of the times really applies today. Right? What are the things that are driving in our favor? One, the enabling ecosystem is huge that has happened. All of you have heard of ONDC, right? ONDC, for example, digital public infrastructure. Just like early days, trade came up because the roads were available. Railroads were available, roads were available, infrastructure was available, people could do businesses. Same exact equivalent has happened in the digital public infrastructure or digital public good. Whether it's Aadhaar, eKYC, whether it's UPI, whether it's ONDC, all of that come under digital public good, digital public infrastructure. That is new. So one of the things I always look forward to is when I started these businesses, whether it's Big Basket, Bluestone, Home Lane, Portia Medical, or earlier Tutor Vista or Marketix, all of that. One of the things I look forward is what has changed now. So there are two things you ask. Whatever may have been your past business, whatever is your current business, and whatever are the challenges, there are only two things. What in next 10 years is going to change? More importantly, what is not going to change? What in 10 years is not going to change? That is where the opportunity is. Things have changed. Take, for example, Portia Medical, elder care. All of us are going to live longer and longer. My generation, I'm 62, is expected to live till 90s. The younger generation will cross 100 because of advancements in medicine, because of diagnosis, because of more awareness about health. 100. That's not going to change. What's not going to change? The last 10 years are going to get added. Will need disproportionate amount of healthcare. So can I build a business? Because that is certain. What is certain? Each and every one of us, almost every one of us, will live to 90s and 100, one. And during 90s and 100, we will need extraordinary support for daily activity of living. That's not going to change. Okay, right? That's given. Unless we are fortunate enough to die suddenly earlier than that, we are going to unfortunately. So that's an opportunity. So what is not going to change? That's one. Two, enable digital public infrastructure. Can we build businesses on top of digital public infrastructure? Leveraging that. Two. Three, there are certain tailwinds or certain waves that's happening. Can we latch on to this? All of you must have heard when the railroads were being built, when the roads were being built, when railroads were being built in the US, people who made the maximum amount of money were not the railroad companies, were the people that were supplying to people who were building the railroad companies. Okay. The restaurants that came up, hiring of workers, the supply of workers. Same thing you must have heard of the standard story that when the gold rush was happening, who made money? People who are making the shovels. Okay, whether the gold is there or not there, don't know. 1,000 people are digging for the gold. Don't know whether out of 1,000, 5 will find or 10 will find. But all the 1,000 will need shovels to dig. So if you are making shovels, you are certain to win. So where is the wind blowing? Can you latch on to the wind? Can you actually supply to the wind? Take, for example, electric vehicles. In India, Tata Motors is leading the charge on electric vehicles. There are multiple electric vehicle manufacturers. There is four-wheelers, there are three-wheelers, there are two-wheelers, and it's going on. It's one game. If you want to play in that game, yes, Ather, Ola Electric, Tata Motors, and all that stuff. Other thing is, what does that mean? That means there is a huge opportunity for battery manufacturing. Okay, one. Two, supply for battery manufacturing. Okay. Now, I don't know who is going to win the electric vehicle war. I don't know whether it's going to be Tata or Maruti. I don't know whether it's going to be Ola Electric or Ather. But I don't have to bet on that. But I do know the number of vehicles is going to, electric vehicles is going to explode. Number of batteries is going to explode. Therefore, battery manufacturers are going to explode. I can do battery manufacturing. I can do components and supplies to battery manufacturers. I can do component supply to electric vehicle manufacturer also, but also to battery manufacturers. It doesn't end there. There's one company which I'm an angel investor in. It's not my company. It's not my idea. I'm just a pure angel investor, which is called Battery Smart. It's not here. It's there in North. Battery Smart. They do battery swapping. So what have they done? Smart young entrepreneur. He has said, this is the way wind is blowing. Logistics, courier, everybody is using vehicles, electric vehicles, because it's cheaper to use. But they can't afford 16 hours of downtime to charge the battery, or 12 hours of downtime to charge the battery. So I'm going to provide battery swapping infrastructure. So he has opened, like petrol stations, he has opened battery swapping stations in NCR, for example, and many cities in the north side, example. So whether you are a porter, whether you are any of the delivery, shadow fax, or anything, you can take your vehicle there within 2 minutes, just like filling petrol, give the battery, take the other battery and go. Okay. Brilliant idea, executed very well, largest battery swapping company, valued very, very nicely, just raised their third round of funding recently. That's a great example of derived, we call this derived demand. Don't go after gold rush, go after shovels. Okay, right? That's a huge opportunity. And the same logic, when it doesn't end with battery swapping, battery services, battery servicing. Two, batteries have a lifetime. 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, based on how much usage and what battery you're talking about. Beyond that time, what's going to happen to the battery? Okay. There is a new law that has come up that people who are importing battery, who are dealing in battery, are responsible for disposal of battery waste. It's a government law. That again is a great opportunity, because how are they going to dispose? Okay. Now, there are industries abroad, not yet started in India, where they take this battery and then recycle the metals from the battery. Okay. It's a big industry, recycling and taking out. Okay. So not only it gives you the ability to dispose of the electronic waste, more importantly, recover from there, reuse some of them. So huge industry is there. It's going to come up because the first wave of batteries that are being used on electric vehicles, their life is starting to end now. So all those batteries, about 20% you can reuse, recycle. 80% of them have to be recovered, recycled and something recovered. And this will exponentially keep growing because of battery. Remember, we started with electric vehicles as an industry, gone on to battery as an industry, battery swapping as services and many services around that, to battery waste recycling and waste disposal, each of this. So that is a huge opportunity. ONDC is another one wherein government has made the ONDC interoperable protocol, democratized access. Before ONDC came in, for us MSMEs to be able to get the benefit of e-commerce would have been difficult. You needed to be a hugely, highly funded Flipkart or Amazon or Big Basket to take benefit of e-commerce. But today, we can actually, any of us, even the smallest of the trader, can latch on to ONDC. Remember, ONDC has got a lot of critics, but it's very early days. Just like Flipkart in the first 5 years, nobody believed e-commerce will work in India. Big Basket, I can tell you, when we started Big Basket, I went and pitched to 22 investors. Nobody even wanted to look at, they said, will buy grocery in India. Now, not only they are buying grocery, they demand 10-minute grocery. Okay, right? That's how it changes. So, for a smaller player, ONDC is a great boon to take advantage of e-commerce. So, that's an example. Similarly, for us to use software, earlier technology used to be very expensive. Now, SaaS is available. Take Freshdesk, take Zoho, take example. Those software are available for a small monthly subscription. So you and I can use it. We don't have to be a large enterprise to be able to afford a Microsoft or to be able to afford Oracle or SAP or anything like that. Today, it's on-the-go SaaS software available. So the amount of ecosystem available, whether it is digital public infrastructure, whether it is platforms like e-commerce or ONDC or software, all of that actually works in our favor. So what is my learning? And final words. Learning really is, the opportunity is huge. What you can't do is rest on the past laurels, because things have changed. Disruption is happening. It's happening at a faster pace. We are living in a VUCA world. Therefore, we need to understand what is happening and be agile, be learning, okay, right? And we need to learn from what's happening. One of the things is events like this, industry association. I mean, in software industry, at least NASSCOM as a body, we benefited a lot. So whether it is conclave like this, whether it is chambers of commerce, whether it is CII, whether it is networking, all of that will give you very different perspective to what's happening today. And even the sheer marketplace availability, the fact that today in India we can be part of a global network, we can be part of a global supply chain, we can supply components and parts to companies abroad on B2B marketplaces. All of that are huge opportunity. Earlier this was not there. During my first business, we were restricted to this geography. Internet itself was not there. Forget about going global. Just not possible. Today you can actually list, you can be discovered. I was speaking to a very interesting company from Bangalore last week. What it does is, it says that in India, there are enough engineering shops available, enough machine hours available, which are lying idle. So I'm going to aggregate the available engineering hours in small and medium manufacturing units and aggregate them and present it with some kind of rating and quality check to a global audience. They are early stage startup, but doing extremely well. Why? Remember I said, what is not going to change in next 10 years? What is going to change? What is not going to change in next 10 years? Europe is going to become extremely expensive to manufacture. US is going to be expensive to manufacture. Europe is going to be extremely expensive to manufacture. Labor costs are going to shoot up. People don't want to work in factories there. So automatically businesses will come here. Okay. Digital India, Make in India, all of those will help. But the fact that we have resources here, we can import the best of the equipment, we have labor at a low cost, and we can make products, refined products to international standards is definite. So this company is doing that. So each one of this is a fantastic and great opportunity. In short, I am very confident the next 10 years really belongs to us. And it's needed. Employment gets generated from this sector. Employment comes because of small and medium entrepreneurs, startups trying to do something new. It's not going to come out of traditional sectors. Traditional sectors will automate, will face a declining employment. Employment will come out of this. And you can see that today. I mean, most of the new jobs in Bangalore has got created by Big Basket, Swiggy, Zomato, drivers. And it doesn't come out of employment in manufacturing sector. Each of this is a major employment driver. So India needs you to step up just for the sake of employment. Of course for exports, of course for GDP, all of that is important. But with the young people coming up, the employment has come from this sector. It's a great opportunity. VUCA world has leveled the playing field for each one of us. If you are agile, if you are willing to learn, look at where the world is going, ride on the bandwagon, and do everything possible to latch on to secular trends that are happening, that are irreversible, that will capitalize on. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to take a couple of questions if there are any. Yeah.
Excellent talk, very, very enlightening. You are about Big Basket and you are from the 90s, I am in phase 2. I would like you to just tell us something more. I'd like you to tell us something more about your comparison of India with China. The opportunity there, you are talking about opportunity, manufacturing from Europe going to India, whether it will go to China, and they are already producing in millions. So please tell us more about that and what do you think about it?
Yeah, so I'm not the expert on China, but the clear trends are this. China is not liked by most people. China is not trusted by most people because of various things that has happened in terms of secrecy, in terms of security of data. So right from US to India. So there is a wave sentiment against China, against Chinese suppliers, against dependence on China for all the right reasons that we have seen in the past. That has given us what is known typically as China plus one strategy for everybody. You can see Apple, for example, they want to ensure that they are not doing everything in China, even if it's the cheapest and the best from a commercial point of view, because it is too much of a concentration risk and it's an unreliable risk. When there is a problem, you don't know what's happened. And it has happened at multiple levels. Spying espionage is one. The way Chinese government has clamped down on US listed companies is two. They have what they did to Alibaba, which is their own company, because of political compulsions or whatever, is make them very unreliable and untrustworthy to bank upon. So that has given rise to China plus one strategy. Now, where else can you manufacture? Taiwan is there, Vietnam is there, and manufacturing India is there. India has got size and scale of a large number, and India has shown through multiple governments, through COVID, through ups and downs, that it is reliable, can be trusted upon. So that is how you see so much of manufacturing thing coming in China. We have a lot more to do. I'm not talking about the challenges and other things that we need to do. Like we say, because I'm a professor, that is out of syllabus for this particular for this particular talk. But definitely the opportunity is huge for us to capitalize on, and driven by anti-China sentiment, which is not our own doing, but which has really helps us. How well we capitalize in the next 5 years and take a lion's share vis-a-vis Vietnam and other countries is important.
Just to add to that,
Yeah.
thing is, in spite of all this, in spite of the fact that,
Go ahead, I can hear you.
in spite of the fact that, China is not trusted around the world, still our steel imports today, if you look at JSW Steel or any of our steel imports, we have reported in the last couple of years, Hindu BusinessLine itself has brought out an article stating that our, the deficit, whatever we are exporting is much less than what we are importing.
Yeah.
In spite of that, we are not competitive. That's the unfortunate problem. So I don't know, even America or Europe, they cannot just do without China. That's what we're talking about BYD. That's what I just wanted to know.
No, absolutely true. We have to, it will not happen overnight. We have to reduce dependence on China. We have to find alternatives, and that is a risk. Fortunately, everybody is aware of, which will work in the favor. But before we can write off China, or before we can stop boycott China, would be very difficult. And not only that, this nationalism and polarization does exist. We also want that. We don't want any superpower to be there. Between Russia, between US, between China, there needs to be enough balance so that we are also able to get things on a competitive basis, like the way we do trade with Russia to keep it at balance. Sorry, just use the mic, please.
My name is Prabhu. I am representing the micro industries. I am from Tumkur. Regarding you told that ONDC surveys, ONDC is available only in the metro cities. As on today, we do not get any service from the 2-tier and 3-tier cities. That is what we approach them and all that. So what I request you, being a popular man, and also you actually can prevail upon that, so that micro industries also can use that ONDC service.
No, absolutely agreed. I think ONDC, we are still seeing early days. There are challenges to ONDC which are still being ironed out. Obviously, right now people are focused because it requires multiple, unlike Flipkart or unlike a horizontal integrated platform, ONDC requires multiple disaggregated players to work together. It needs to be smooth, the kinks need to be smoothened out, but be rest assured it will happen. It's a force that is in benefits everybody. It benefits the consumer, benefits the seller, and the government is doing this interoperable protocols, infrastructure layer that's building, automatically will happen. Just, it's easier for UPI or for fintech to be adopted nationally at nook and corners because it's purely digital. ONDC has got a layer of physical delivery and physical transaction that needs to happen. Therefore, the spread to tier 2, tier 3 will take time, but 100% it's happening.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have never been referred as Gen Y, but thank you.
Range, yeah, right.
Range, yeah. It's a very large range, but it's okay.
Yeah. So successful. I've been tracking you from the Minerva, circle days. Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, what do you attribute as the key biggest challenge for the Gen Z people like you?
For the Gen Z people. Biggest challenge for the younger people.
Yeah. MSME Gen Z.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I think MSME Gen Z, the biggest challenge is the rate of change that is happening. Right? The rate of change is phenomenal. The technology change, the ability to keep up with that is the biggest challenge. In my first business, when I started IT&T that you talked about, we were in computer maintenance. Even though computer was changing, computer maintenance was a very dull, boring business. Okay, right? Whereas today, any business, you have to look left, right, center, competition coming from anywhere, technology change, consumer habit changing. Each one of it changes the thing. I think the biggest change is, the biggest challenge is that, and the answer to that is be agile, be watchword. You can't start an ancillary unit like we used to do earlier and say, I'll manufacture next 20 years, I'll supply to TVS Motors, and I'm done. My next generation also will join me in supply. So you have 2 generations, 3 generations supplying to Tata Motors, supplying to this and all that. Those are few and far between. Today's Gen Z MSME businesses, left, right, and center, competition from unrelated industries, technology change making you obsolete, is the biggest challenge that we need to do that. No, after that is a very interesting story. Yeah, the story that happened was the reason why nobody wanted it is because they never thought Indians will buy fruits and vegetables online. We are all used to touching, feeling. My mother did not buy for the first 18 months. She did not buy from Big Basket. She used to go and buy because it's something she is feeding her children. Therefore, it needs to be chosen personally and all that stuff. Then suddenly she got one and she said, oh, this is better than what I used to choose. I said, yeah, it's because somebody else is choosing it, it will be better. Then she became a convert, okay, right, after 18 months. So there was a lot of resistance to funding Big Basket because Indians will not buy. Buying books is okay, buying shampoo is okay, buying soap is okay, buying this is not okay with thing. Second reason was that if you are familiar with it, the biggest .com failure in the world, biggest .com failure, was a company called Webvan in the US, which was an e-grocery company. Okay, about 15, 20 years back, funded by the top venture capitalists, largest fund, it crashed badly. So whenever you used to Google e-grocery, that's what all these investors did. E-grocery, the first thing used to come was Webvan biggest failure. They said if in US with the biggest funder, top venture capital doesn't work, how will it work? That's how it's been there. Finally, in funding, what happens is, it doesn't matter if 22 people say no. You require only one person to say yes. It is just like dating and marriage. It doesn't matter how many people. You think I could have got married if the first person said yes? I have met more number of girls than finally one person said yes and got married. Okay, right? So the same thing happens. That is what happened. The interesting story, it happened, the way it happened was, I was sitting on a flight from between Bombay to Bangalore, and next to me was this venture capitalist was sitting, and the fasten the seatbelt sign was on. So both of us could not go to the loo also. Okay, so both of us were stuck with each other next to next. And as usual, as an entrepreneur, I opened my laptop. I said, since you're sitting, why don't you look at this? Okay, he saw this, and he says, okay, it looks interesting and all that stuff. So that he converted. That was it was a private equity firm called Ascent Capital. Private equity firm never does venture capital investment. This was the only time they invested in technology. They do airports and infrastructure projects. This was the earliest ever check they have ever written. This was the first check they have written. It's the lowest check they have written. Okay, they made all the exceptions. because of that 2-hour flight which we could not move, I was able to eat their head off. Partly, I think it's because he wanted to get rid of me. So he said, he said yes. So one of the ways to succeed is by being a pest, so that people will tire out and say yes. Okay, right? So they said yes. But the story went on very well. They returned their entire fund, full fund, out of the returns of one investment. Okay, right? That is the success. Thank you very much. Okay, lovely speaking to you. All the very best. Thank you, Hindu BusinessLine. Thank you, Venkatesh, for having me here. All the best.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, please remain on stage. We have something for you. But firstly, a big round of applause to sir for that very stimulating address. Thank you so much for your valuable insights and your valuable time, sir. It's been a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for gracing this occasion. I'd like to invite Mr. Vinay Kamath on stage to please felicitate our chief guest, Mr. Ganesh.
Ideas. So if any entrepreneur here takes up any of these ideas and they monetize it, since it was said as the BusinessLine Conclave, we get a share of it.
Thank you so much, sir. So like they say, the best way, to enjoy an event is first to get to know people on your very own table. Now, if you don't know somebody on your table, this is the right time for you to say hi, hello, and introduce yourselves. Let's take a minute to do that. If there's somebody you identify, you don't know, quickly, you can say hi to each other. Who are you? Where are you from? Now, if there are certain tables where everybody knows everybody, why don't you pay a compliment to each other? Something you like about them, nice shirt, nice dress, anything nice you can tell each other. If you received a nice compliment today and you'd like to share with me, just raise your hand. We'd like to know what you heard about yourself. Okay, somebody wants to share a compliment you receive? Yes, sir. Do we have a mic? A mic for sir, please. So you look very happy, so I'm sure you've received a nice compliment. And please tell me it's from a lady. Is that on? Yes. So your name, where are you from, and...
I'm from a company called Tiger Petrol, which is based in California.
Okay.
So I handle the global territory as a chief consumer
Wow.
in marketing. So after coming here, I met Rohit. He has got a unique product where they deal with NFCs. And he had a question for Ganesh sir, and I know Ganesh sir long way back from iSeva days. And he gave me a very good compliment. He said, sir, you are on such a high position, and I'm just inspired by you, and I want to also become like you. Aren't you scared about your security or anything? I said, when you're in oil business, we not only drill on Mother Earth, anyone threatens us, we drill into them.
Wow.
He's a great guy, and he's got amazing ideas, so I was inspired by his ideas. So, thank you.
Very nice. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. So with this, we now have our first panel discussion on leveraging AI to drive growth in MSMEs. The discussion will be moderated by Mr. Venkatesha Babu, Chief of News Bureau, Bengaluru of BusinessLine. Sir, can we please have you on stage? Can we hear that from Mr. Babu, please? Welcome, sir. And with this, I'd like to invite our esteemed panel of speakers. We have first joining us Sanket Atal. Sanket is instrumental in driving the next phase of growth for Salesforce in India, making it a global hub for talent and innovation. Combining the best of design thinking and digital strategies, Sanket works with teams to build breakthrough customer experiences, leveraging his passion for innovation to deliver future-ready solutions, accelerating growth for Salesforce in India. Welcoming Sanket Atal with us on dais, sir. Thank you. Our next panelist is Tejas Goenka, the Managing Director at Tally Solutions, who's working on making connected business environment a reality for small and medium businesses via the next generation. Tally product roadmap, seeing the tremendous opportunity to positively impact the lives of millions of entrepreneurs across the globe. He's expanding Tally's footprint beyond India to the Middle East, Africa, Southeast Asia, United States, and Canada. Welcome, sir. Our next panelist is Vidya Vasudevan. Vidya heads the Zoho user community. She has been with the company for 23 years. After playing several roles in Zoho's IT management division, where she wrote about supported and trained customers, Vidya now focuses on building a thriving user community that furthers user retention, peer support, and brand love. Her team represents the voice of customers inside the company and is constantly working on strategies that open up online and offline avenues for Zoho users to connect, engage, and learn from each other and from product experts. Welcoming Vidya Vasudevan. Our next panelist is Siddesh Nayak. In this role at IBM, Siddesh leads a team that helps clients deliver business outcomes using data, AI, and automation. Siddesh has more than 22 years of experience in the information technology marketplace with an extensive background in sales, operation, and brand management. He's been with IBM for 20 plus years in various roles in sales and brand managing. Welcome, sir. And with this, I'll hand it over to our moderator. And towards the end of the panel discussion, we'll have time for Q&A, so please keep your questions ready for that. Thank you.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Obviously, I'm sure that you have seen what is up on there, which says that leveraging AI for MSME growth. While we were internally brainstorming on the topics we ought to look at, this was not an obvious choice at the very beginning. I'll tell you why, and before I even get my esteemed panelists to weigh in, most of the MSME players sitting out here, most of them struggle to even have some of the basic technology needs met. So where is the question of AI? There was a deep degree of skepticism in terms of whether AI is even applicable to the large section of the MSME sector. But increasingly, if India wants to become a global power, whether it's in manufacturing, whether it's in services, whether it wants to leapfrog existing technologies, AI inevitably is the answer. So to address this challenge as well as more questions, we have very, very qualified, eminent people. We consciously chose two multinationals who are hyperscalers. We have, of course, you heard the MC talk about Sanket, who is from Salesforce, and Siddesh, who is a written panelist. Last year he was such a hit that we had to have him back again. Both of them from IBM, of course Siddesh is from IBM, both of them large hyperscalers who are shaping technology globally. And two very punchy, very feisty contestants from India who are making a mark globally, Zoho and Tally. I'm sure that majority of you would have used either Tally software at some point of time or Zoho suite of solutions at some point of time here, okay? So with starting off even with a degree of skepticism whether even AI is applicable, without much ado, let me ask the panelists to make their opening remarks in what can technology, specifically AI, do to help MSMEs grow. Ladies first as always, so it's up to Vidya. Vidya, your opening remarks, please. And before she starts, Zoho, I'm sure that, as I said, most of you have used their suite of solutions at one point of time or the other. One of the most underrated, under the radar Indian success stories, okay? What Sridhar Vembu has built at Zoho is something remarkable. A global champion from India who probably doesn't get the attention it deserves, but increasingly is being noticed as a player which is on the radar of even the large competitors. So over to you, Vidya.
Thank you, Venkatesh. Good evening, everybody. Nice to be here addressing on this topic of whether or not we should all ride the AI wave. I think I'm here to state the obvious, which Mr. Ganesh has already done and Venkatesh has already reiterated, yes. So I think we all will remember Nokia and BlackBerry. Anybody still using those phones? Anyone here in the audience using Nokia or BlackBerry? It's not like they were bad phones, they were great phones, but they are not here today because they became irrelevant. Catching up with technology is not a choice. Again, this is cliched. So I, as part of community building initiatives, I work towards building user communities around our brand. It is my role to see how we can constantly keep creating a lot of avenues to see that the customers constantly have room and scope to engage and stay engaged with us. In this process, I get to interact with a lot of business owners globally, and primarily in the last couple of years, I've been actively engaging with a lot of MSMEs in India. So it is heartening to see. I don't think we are on the right track. We see a lot of MSMEs on the digital journey, on the digital transformation journey, making a definite stride. But there is, the true story is that there is a lot of skepticism. We still see a lot of MSMEs that have not moved out of using spreadsheets for a lot of activities that they do, be it from keeping books or be it for managing customer relations, using it even like contact management or a CRM systems. So that is where it is. So while these challenges are true, there is parallelly another change that is happening, very noticeable change, one that tech is becoming increasingly affordable. It is not expensive, it is not complex as it was maybe a decade or 2 decades back. Legacy systems needed a lot of hand-holding, a lot of implementation efforts. Today, that kind of requirement is actually negated. It is no longer a challenge like that because of SaaS. So SaaS adoption is become a thing because nobody needs to worry about setting up an infrastructure, maintaining that infrastructure, setting up a team that is trained on these resources, worry about their churn. There is a chain of challenges that come with that kind of implementations. Today, that kind of challenge is totally removed. Another thing, it is also becoming increasingly intuitive. So most solutions work out of the box. So on the one hand, it is becoming affordable. On the other hand, it is becoming increasingly simple to use tech, contrary to how a lot of MSMEs still perceive technology as being very complex or very expensive. So I think Venkatesh also cited in his introduction saying how there are these vendors who provide affordable tech, right? So not just Zoho or Tally, there are so many other players in this ecosystem, and there is a pie for everyone. So on the broader note, I would like to say, I would like to again quote Jensen Huang from NVIDIA. I think that quote has been doing the rounds like crazy. So tech evolution is like that speeding train. If you look at it from the outside, you can never keep pace with the speed. You have to get inside the train, because inside the train, it doesn't move that fast. Thank you.
So hop onto the train or you will be left behind is a message. Vidya pertinently pointed out something. None of us in the room, there was not a single hand up when she said that, do we use a Nokia or a BlackBerry? Technology changes so fast. Very few players actually survive in this business for a long period of time. One of the few companies globally which has survived for more than a century is IBM. It is the 800-pound gorilla which in the technology business has managed to not only survive but also thrive with every changing evolution of the technology landscape. However, there is always a degree of skepticism which says that, what will somebody like IBM, which is such a large player, which primarily looks at enterprises, is capable of doing to the MSME sector, which struggles with even the most basic stuff. How do you address those challenges, Siddesh?
Hey, thank you, Venkatesh. Thank you for good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So, Venkatesh, in fact, before I come to responding to your question, I want to draw an analogy, and we've been seeing this transformation for the past few years, and that is one of my favorite analogies, which is the whole fintech journey that we've seen in India. We are the third largest fintech ecosystem. In fact, even in terms of fintech adoption, the way fintechs and banks have started working as a coherent ecosystem is phenomenal. We have a fintech adoption of 87% against the global average of 64%. And we've seen this happen through the last few years. The way the whole digital ecosystem has become a very, very vibrant ecosystem. In fact, a lot of things in terms of the downstream funding to the MSMEs, the whole financial inclusion piece that comes in as well. Now, if you look at this piece, this has been a foundational element. Technology has been a foundational element for this transformation. And like Vidya said, the whole transformation from a technology perspective is not a choice, but it is a question of survival. So unless we create a platform that gets me out to the world with newer and newer models, my ability to go address the need that comes in, I have no means to really go cater to the new world out there. How can IBM be a partner of choice in this space? And in fact, not many of you would know, but we play very aggressively in the MSME space. We start with offerings which really are now targeted for the MSME space. And I would say we start with three broad areas, and which we believe are foundational areas for the MSMEs to go to the next level. The first piece is AI. How do I bring in AI from aspects of two core areas? One is, how do I bring in AI from a customer experience perspective? How do I take the whole customer experience to the next level? The second element is, how do I optimize and cost from an operational excellence perspective? I think two broad areas that are appropriate from a MSME perspective. The next piece where we've seen a lot of traction on, and this is a lot around the suppliers to some of the ancillary units, the auto ancillary units, right? Now, all of this has become a very, very large digital ecosystem. So how do I have a API backbone? How do I have an API lifecycle management that makes these MSMEs as an integral part of the digital ecosystem? And I think this is a very critical part of getting them onto an exponential growth curve. Unless you are part of that digital ecosystem where each stakeholder is going to bring in benefits and benefit out of that relationship, you're not going on to the next level. So I think that is the second area we work extensively with a lot of ecosystems on. I think the third area is about how do I bring in AI-powered operations? And this could be IT operations, this could be multiple other core operations that the MSME runs. These are the three areas, Venkatesh, we focus on from a MSME perspective?
I'm sure that everybody in this room, at least all the MSMEs, at some point of time in their journey would have used Tally. I'm loath to state this on stage, but nonetheless, even the micro enterprise at some point of time, very early on in the journey, probably would have used a pirated Tally software at some point of time before graduating once they are able to offer to the legit offerings. Tally is like literally a household name in the country. Tejas, and I've had the privilege of knowing his father who built the company to have really made a mark. Tejas, if you could outline why is Tally so popular, especially among MSMEs? What do you bring to the table? What's your understanding of the needs of the sector?
Sure. So thank you for having me, and hi everyone. So first off, like you shared, it's been some time now that we've been serving the sector. I think 2 or 3 things that really stand out. One, we've never found a lack of enthusiasm in trying to adopt technology. I think since '89, we've always found business owners never resistant, always open, but also the recognition has been that if we build something right, people will adopt. And it's not like we've had things correct all the time, to be honest. So that's been something that we've really spent a lot of time on. And to build something right in India is very different from building something right that's for the world. For example, you want to run your business your way. In India, MSMEs will know cash flow pressures are the soul of the business pretty much. We are under pressure of customers paying us on time, not paying us on time, managing them, suppliers demanding money. And the system has to work, keeping that in mind, rather than trying to force fit a set of processes that automation sort of demands. So a lot of our core philosophy has been to build technology that really works for business owners in environments like India. Over the last several years, we've also been seeing the similar behavior outside. So I think that's the second part, which is building things right. And the third is, if you look at the future and your point on AI and how should MSMEs look at it, I would continue on that enthusiasm. I do think everyone here explores technology. Everyone here has that smartphone. Everyone here has heard of ChatGPT, has tried it'll be surprising if people haven't. And that's what I've found in my discovery in the Indian market, at least. But again, the pressure is actually on folks like us. So we have to build things which are private. We can't take your data and learn from your data. And I think that has to be the soul of things that we build. We have to build stuff that actually gives you a proper benefit. So I think a lot of those problems we have to pick up, which allow businesses to actually benefit from changing technology waves. And if I look back to Vidya's example of when the smartphone came in, it took a few years for people to build that 10,000 rupee, 15,000 rupee smartphone, which India could use, in a sense, So it's on manufacturers, producers, creators like us that have to solve the problem that allow businesses to use those technologies. But I've always found business owners very open. So, yeah.
So AI demand at scale will ensure that the cost and pricing pressures will be addressed. One of the hyperscalers who has been doing this, Salesforce, of course, global hyperscaler who increasingly is addressing the MSME market needs. I remember the starter solutions which you started offering for the MSME sector. If you could talk a little bit on how does a large hyperscaler like you try and understand the needs of the MSME sector and address them?
Absolutely. So the company Salesforce is all about customer centricity. And we call our suite of products Customer 360. So whether you're trying to attract a customer through marketing, you're trying to do some transactions using e-commerce, you want to keep track of the customers using customer relationship management, Our ticker symbol is CRM. We're synonymous with customer relationship management. You'd like to serve your customers. You'd like to do analytics. You'd like to manage data. We handle all of that, right? And all of that is necessary for every company to be customer-centric. And that should be the goal of every company. And the other thing I'd like to add is going back to something that Vidya had said. When companies come together, a group of folks decide, hey, I'm going to launch something. And typically the concept is, let's try to do everything ourselves. Whether you're using a small ledger to keep track of expenses or your customers, etc. Oftentimes you feel the need to digitize something. You start using Excel, you add macros, this, that, whatever. And you end up trying to create products which already exist. And this takes away from your core competency. And hence, it's a distraction. Technology should be an enabler rather than a distraction. There are lots of technology available for you to be able to run your business, leverage that, and focus on your core competency. Now, having said that, let me get back to the question you had about starter. So most people perceive that a large company like Salesforce, would it be applicable to me or not? Well, if you want to be a world-class company, you want to use world-class software, and that's where we come in. What we did with Starter was to put together 3 of our most important, what we call clouds, which is the Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, and Marketing Cloud, all of them into an easy package that you could get online with a click of a button and be able to get started very quickly. One of the things that enterprise software typically is notorious for is you buy the software and it takes you months and months of implementation before you're able to get any value out of it. Starter is not like that. Starter allows you to get going within a matter of hours rather than days, weeks, or months. And so that was the whole concept behind Starter. But I'll get back to the whole theme of the evening today, which is about AI. And I was speaking at a conference recently, and people were asking the question, what should I study to understand AI more? How best can I leverage AI? How do I become a prompt engineer? Everybody here has heard of prompt engineering. It's a big thing nowadays, right? And to me, the thing is, first of all, whenever you're using technologies like AI, it should be part and parcel of what you're already doing. So if you're using a CRM software, if you're using an accounting software, you're using a marketing software, AI should come available within the context of what you are doing. Why should everybody become an expert in AI? It should not be necessary. All you need to do is be able to use tools which leverage AI and bring it to you. That's our goal. We democratize the access to AI, right? And we do it, going back to Tejas's point, we do it in a trusted manner. Lots of stuff is happening around AI and lots of problems are being created as a result of that. Most people nowadays blindly trust anything they ask ChatGPT. Is it really true? Lots of toxicity problems, lots of false positive problems are there. What we have done is we have created our own stack which enables AI as a part of our products in the context of what you're doing, but does it in a trustworthy manner so you have confidence that my data is not being sacrificed and the results I'm getting is in the context of what my company would like to do. That is where Salesforce plays a big part. And by the way, we have been in the AI business for quite some time. So we started probably more than a decade ago, and today, we are already doing more than 1 trillion transactions, whether it's predictive AI or Gen AI, every single week. And it's going from strength to strength. So my fundamental conjecture here is that nobody should need to become an expert in AI, but everybody should be using AI by virtue of using products that give you access to it in an easy-to-use manner.
I get when you say technology as an enabler and number of solutions being available to the MSME players. But the worry is most of them don't have the expertise to integrate these solutions. How would somebody ensure that this best of breed solutions are brought together? Most of them wouldn't even have a basic IT manager to even look at. Let's be realistic on ground on what MSMEs can offer, what they can do. Either they have two choices: buy best of breed solutions and try to integrate on their own, or go and have a one throat to choke policy wherein they surrender their entire IT to a single company. if you could weigh in on what could MSMEs do under this kind of constraints?
Okay, so I think the first step would be to identify what problems you want to solve for your business. What are all the business processes that you think is taking away so much time that you have to automate, you don't want to keep repeating, how you can get your team to become more productive. So if we get to list down all the challenges that you want to eliminate, then finding solution vendors today is not very difficult. When you search, you will find n number of solutions. Everything is available for a trial format today, and there are a lot of free solutions also. So trialing this software without any catches will be the first step. And like I said, we don't need to know the technology. We just need to know what problems to solve with this technology. And this technology, most of the software that you sign up today will be intuitive. You will be able to relate to it instantly. So you will be able to navigate this, and all the vendors, most vendors that offer solutions for business process automation or for every productivity management or whatever is the business need, today has a good partner ecosystem. So there are a lot of partners that will enable to, most of them work out of the box. If you need implementation help, you want to integrate with your existing systems in place. Today, for any tech company like Zoho or Tally or anybody to be relevant here, we have to be integratable in the ecosystem. So we take care of that first. So we make sure that we are a part of this ecosystem. We work with every technology available out there, and we collaborate. So that is taken care of by the evolution in this tech journey, even for the tech companies. So when you are able to articulate your problems or identify the problems, for example, for most MSMEs, we see, just today, Zoho published a report on MSMEs. We surveyed about 5,000 plus Indian MSMEs. I don't know if you were one of the people who took those surveys. 77% have told that they've set aside 50% of their budget for this year and next year to invest in cloud solutions, which means you already know that you need a solution. You also know what kind of solution you need. It is a matter of deciding which solution to go with, which solves your problem in the least, which requires the least effort to get to that point. So once out there, every vendor also provides a lot of resources that enables or makes it possible to have, makes it possible for self-learning also. Other than that, there are communities around these solutions where you learn from your peers. So again, in the tech journey, one important thing to, like I said, is to stay relevant. To stay relevant, you have to stay connected with your peers and experts in that particular domain. So when you learn from the peers, it is even more easy. So as a tech vendor, I would say this is how you solve a problem. But when you learn the challenges faced by your peer in your vertical about how they faced a problem using a certain solution, that gives you a lot more insights. So being a part of the community will open up a lot more avenues for you to identify the right tech or the right way to solve a problem through a tech. Even solutions, they might not have just one solution for your problem. We might throw 10 options at you. So what best works for you is possible through trials and errors. It won't take time. I don't want to make it seem like it is going to be a very Herculean task for anybody to try and do something. Today, school children, if they have to start a project, they don't. I remember preparing for a debate when I was in primary school. The topic was politeness space. I used to rack my brains, talk to my dad, talk to so many people to come up with topics and points for the debate. Today, children don't do that. They ask ChatGPT. They build it on top of that. So every tech is becoming as simple as that. You should know to do the right search, find the right solution, go from there. Be part of a peer ecosystem where you will get to understand how a fellow MSME or how a peer in your vertical is solving certain problems. You will definitely be able to land the solutions. And all the solutions, most of them integrate with the other tech in this ecosystem, and the partner ecosystem will also contribute to that.
Tejas, since you work with a large number of MSMEs, how do you deal with this issue of legacy investments already made and integrating some of the newer offerings which these guys would be bringing in? Are you also building in some of AI fundamentally into your existing software? How are you addressing the kind of challenges which MSMEs have?
Perfect. So I think two big parts. One, we definitely see the enterprise, the larger organizations, very different fundamentally from an entrepreneur-run entity. And we also see the entrepreneur very, very different from a consumer. So consumer-oriented technologies find it hard to find their way into business many times. The differences are a few. Best practices typically don't work with MSMEs. And my encouragement to business owners is not to necessarily fall for that best practice trap in a way. I think business owners know their challenges. Business owners know how to run their businesses. And the technology should shape its way to that process, to that way, rather than you needing to change your entire business process to adapt to new things. So for us, building flexibility and I think for entrepreneurs also, it's important to seek flexibility in solutions. So that's probably one big thing. On the AI bit, I genuinely feel we are, despite how fast this world is moving and despite this VUCA fear in that sense, I do think there's a little bit of a distance to get to this mass adoption of AI. So if you want to see, sometimes they say, right, when you want to see what's happening 7, 10, 15 years down the line, you just have to look at a part of the world which is doing something far ahead of your time. And so in many cases, AI is making a big difference and showing us this incredible possibility of what the world potentially could look like. If I translate this to the business context, one, no business data should of course sit outside the business. Businesses should be in 100% control of their own data. And if I take MSME context again, sometimes I don't want anyone to know, even in my own team, to know how much I am selling or how much I'm buying some raw material for. It's a very core part of the system. It happens. So I don't want that data to go anywhere. It should not teach any AI model sitting out of God knows where. So those are some problems to solve. The second problem that we have to solve is that it has to be contextually appropriate for my business. I will maintain my business sitting in Bangalore running an aerospace manufacturing plant, or sitting in Chickpet running a very large sari trading business maybe. And the model has to work for me in the way I manage my enterprise. So I do think that there's work for folks like us to do. I do think that it's important to not necessarily only do the marketing bit, and make sure that we build out solutions that fully work. So in my mind, it's both these aspects, flexibility and trusting the way you run your business, because it has run for so long, and solutions have to work towards that. And AI, I think, has some months, not years, but some months.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just add something to what you said, Tejas. Very significant points you made. The whole concept of data being yours and being able to leverage it and not training some model somewhere with that thing is super important. That's one of the things we like to enable. The other part is, in any business, you have several sources of data. You might have Tally, you might have Zoho, other entities. And for you to be able to leverage that data towards doing things with whatever it is you're trying to do, especially AI, you want to be able to put that together in some fashion so that whatever queries you do to the AI system are grounded in that data, in your data. That's something that's super important. That's something we'd like to enable within the context of our products itself. So collect all the data from all kinds of sources, use it in a manner that's safe. You don't share this data with any other model. It's your data, but you construct all of your AI prompts underneath the covers, leveraging the software, so that you're able to leverage it without sacrificing your data integrity.
Whether it is Zoho, whether it is Tally, these are all Indian companies which have gone global. Both Sanket and you bring a different perspective in the sense that you're global multinationals, unlike those two who are headquartered out of here. Are the needs of Indian MSMEs, in a sense, different from what needs are elsewhere? Therefore, do you do different solutions to the Indian market? If you could talk a little bit, Siddesh, on that.
So Venkatesh, one of the aspects we believe, and we've started seeing signs of those, is you will see at least the cream layer taking a leap from a technology perspective. And I'm talking of the MSME. And we've seen this happen with the fintechs, as I spoke of earlier. We've seen this happen in multiple other industries in the Indian context as well. We strongly believe that leap is out there to happen. Whether it happens in the next couple of quarters or it takes a couple of years is for us to see. We saw that happen in the banking industry as well from an India perspective. We took a leap in banking, we took a leap in telecom, and which is where we strongly believe that it is about world-class products for the masses at the right price. And that's the approach we've been leading with, and we've seen a tremendous success and traction around this piece. Let me give you an example of how we've seen this getting embraced in a very, very extensive way. And this is a MSME software testing partner with whom we work very extensively. He does software testing, and how do I bring in GenAI to really revolutionize how he does this? It's about how do I use a business requirements document and churn out testing use cases across tons and tons of software that customers have built. Do the entire functional testing, almost up to 95-97% of functional testing, bring in the performance testing. Your ability to automate all of this using GenAI is a revolutionary thing that comes in on the table. Now, his ability to churn out projects which took him months and months in matter of few weeks is a significant change he brings to his business. There are multiple such examples. The beauty about GenAI has been the extensibility of what all you can use it. It has started touching practically the whole aspect that change between GenAI and traditional AI has been, you can do a lot more with minimal amount of data in a very, very short period of time. And that makes it a lot more amenable to the MSMEs. The differentiation and like Ganesh very beautifully put it, right? This actually brings the MSMEs on par with the giants because of their ability to bring in a technology platform that can go bring them on par with anybody and everybody that operates out in their world, as long as they have a product which is comparable. So how do I build that platform and how do I get there? I think that's the story all about. So one aspect I would definitely, and we are in this world on open LLMs, ChatGPT, and the massive amount of risk that get associated with GenAI, and which is where the element of guardrails become extremely important. How do I have the right guardrails? How do I have trust and fairness that comes in? How do I prevent bias? How do I prevent profanity, hate profile? How do I, we are right around the corner from a DPDP Act. So even as MSME, you are liable as long as you're operating in a digital world, you're liable to be governed under that act. So how do I ensure PI data is secure? How do I ensure consent management is taken care of? The whole 9 yards around managing the whole life cycle around this, especially in a world which is becoming a digital ecosystem world. And I stress upon that part because we've seen the whole exponential growth around the MSME space the moment they come into a digital ecosystem world. The moment you're part of a digital ecosystem, the world is not enough.
Leverage AI properly and you will compete with the best in the world. Sanket, your own Salesforce own learnings from the Indian market in terms of, are there applicability compared to some of the other global markets you operate in? Are there some uniqueness in the Indian space? And have you taken some of these learnings internationally too? It could be a two-way street, not necessarily, learnings coming from elsewhere, but here too, because on the fintech space, the digital space, India especially has developed a lot of solutions at scale. Whether for MSMEs that is applicable, whether your learnings and readings from other markets too, if you could weigh in.
Yeah, so the Indian consumer is very value oriented and demanding, which is good. And there are lots of things in India that should potentially be global in scope, but haven't been till we penetrate the Indian market. And, you take a look at being able to communicate on WhatsApp, for example. It's something that's an afterthought for most companies. It's a necessity in India, right? Likewise, being able to, connect with the various fintech mechanisms that we're all familiar with. All of these things are there. Now, one very interesting aspect of being in India is scale. So the kind of scale we see in India, even with small businesses, is unprecedented anywhere in the world. If you can pass the muster here in India, you can pass it anywhere in the world. And so that's where it's just absolutely amazing. And on the MSME side, going back to a point that you just made, Sudesh, is that, look, leverage these features of AI to be able to scale, to be able to achieve more in less time. Say, as a small company, you'd like to do a marketing campaign. Now, typically, it takes some time. You want to be able to figure out which segment you want to address, what's the messaging you'd like to do, structure it in a particular way. It takes a week to put something together and get it out. Using AI, using the built-in features of AI that our products have, I'm sure other products have as well, you'd be able to do it in a matter of hours, maybe minutes. The amount of time you save is tremendous. Now, going back to your point about, how much effort does it take to implement these solutions? Well, it all depends on you. So, Vidya made an excellent point. We have tremendous resources in this country. So if you want to go complex, there are resources you can avail of to be able to implement that complexity in a fairly reasonable cost. If you'd like to go simple, there are solutions like Starter you can take, and it's click, 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 and you're able to get going. So it all depends on what is it you'd like to achieve. Fundamentally, you have to figure out where you want to head with the technology that you've got and how you'd like to run your business and what kind of scale you want to achieve.
There is this apprehension that since MSMEs are the largest job creators, whether AI would have a negative impact. What's your take on the stages?
That's a great question and a very, very difficult question for me to answer, to be honest. So what we're trying to do with the company is figure out what does an AI-powered employee look like. So for us, we're running a bunch of experiments, and I don't think that we're seeing replacement, but we're seeing a lot of additional creativity come in where there's a tool to help you do slightly more mundane things. To be honest, I think that's where we are, but I also feel like the world is very unpredictable. I don't think that we'll be in a situation where humans will be replaced. I do think that if we look at the shift between the last 20 years to now and what Mr. K. Ganesh was also saying, at that time, there was a nature of entrepreneurship, a cost to entrepreneurship, a willingness for entrepreneurship, which is dramatically different today. Today, the coffee shops are filled with kids with laptops and ideas, building new businesses. The cost of entrepreneurship, and maybe the wrong word to use, but the sex appeal of entrepreneurship just keeps going up with almost every few months. And I think the next 10 years or the next 15 years or the next 20 years will keep showing this. In fact, there was an interesting discussion that was taking place that in order to build $1 billion business, it used to take, say, 1,000 employees. The question is, when will it take one employee? So the ability to be able to do so much more, I think, comes in, which creates the space for us to pick up problems that we couldn't solve earlier. So in my eyes, I think that's the optimistic view I've got, but there could be a pessimistic view too.
Vidya, would you agree with Tejas' conclusion? For the simple reason, MSME has been the job engine creator, especially in the India context. So there is a lot of concern and worry whether AI therefore will have a deleterious negative effect on this whole exercise. So what's been Zoho's experience, since you're also a global player, it's just that you're headquartered out of India but address the global market.
See, AI, unlike all the other automation evolutions we've seen in tech, it replicates human behavior, right? It thinks, it understands natural language, it processes, it speaks, and it is disruptive. But it will complement the efforts of a business. It has to complement. So in Zoho, what we do is we have something called Zia, our own AI algorithm. Here we see large language models might not be the right thing to chase for MSMEs because large language models deal with very large data sets. So the accuracy could be compromised and it might not be relevant and the cost efficiency is not met. So what we do is we call this contextual artificial intelligence. Okay, so actionable insights from what we do. This AI should power you by providing you contextual data that cannot go wrong or that cannot take anything away from a business. It has to aid, it will complement your business because today we all know, see, most of the things that we are talking today is something we all know, we just need validation or we want to feel endorsed. So we know that it is here to stay, it is here to grow, it is going to disrupt even further. So here contextual today, because user behavior is going to drive every business, we need some insights on what next step to take, what is the next best experiment, what's the next best experience to give to customers. So that way you need data insights, and these insights should be actionable. You should be able to, for example, I think Sanket mentioned marketing campaigns example. I would run a marketing campaign on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on some other third-party segment. So I need to know if my investment is right, whether this works. So as a business owner, you will know what to do next. Take, for example, for every business function, there could be examples like this. If it's supply chain management, right from raw materials till the product reaches the end consumer, at every level, so many automations are possible, which means there is room for you to take away all this work, the mundane work out of your routine. Focus on the productive aspect. I think you touched upon it already in the beginning. So focusing on what matters to scale and grow the business and leave the rest to AI because it has to complement, and so no matter how skeptical or how scared we are, we cannot avoid, we cannot pretend, we cannot deny that it is here to stay.
AI affordability at scale, Siddesh, is it now? Is it a couple of years down the line? When are we seeing the tipping point?
I think it is absolutely now. And with GenAI coming in, of course, as I said earlier, the whole extensibility of AI to every aspect of your business, be it hyper-personalized campaign management that we spoke of, the aspects of it touching HR in your organization, legal contracts, how do MSMEs transact and drive through legal contracts? So it has actually come to a level where it has become the art of the possible. You name a pain point and there is a way that AI brings in an ability to go address this. Having said that, like Vidya spoke of, you've got to be cautious that you're running this within the right guardrails. So how do I have the right governance platform which ensures while the LLM comes with tons of data, billions and billions of parameters which is trained on, you're not letting it go astray, you're not letting it hallucinate, you are not letting it into profanity or hallucination or hate profile with the right guardrails and ensure it delivers what it's required to deliver from an AI for a business perspective. I think that is a piece which has come in. The reason I say this is the right time at the right price as well is because you're not going to go develop an LLM. There are large companies out there in the world, including the IBMs and Salesforce of the world, who will go develop those LLMs. And a whole gamut of them available in the open source domain. IBM has also gone in and open source its Granite LLMs, which are available in the Apache 2.0 framework. Your ability to use them with minimal amount of services is a piece that comes in. In fact, I would say there isn't a better time for the MSMEs to compete with the giants with the kind of technology that GenAI brings onto the table. And
all of us in our personal life already, even without willy-nilly knowing, use some degree of AI, whether you are using your personal assistant Siri, an Alexa, or a Perplexity or a Gemini, whatever you are using, to a degree we are already doing so. The message out here from the panelists seems to be very clear. The MSMEs need to get onto this train. Either you can stand and just be an observer on the platform or hop onto the bandwagon and zoom fast. Let me also take this opportunity to throw this open so that amongst the audience, if there are any questions, please raise your hand, identify yourself, the organization you represent, your name, and preferably I would want a question rather than a comment or an observation. The gentleman, the blue shirted gentleman over here, please. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, I think I'm audible, right? Thank you, BusinessLine, for inviting me, and this is really beautiful. One outcome I had here is it strengthened my view that we are using Copilot on a regular basis, but my pointed question here is how does both Zoho or Tally allow us to obtain certain data? Say, for example, I had to I understand myself that how much revenue did we make from June 2022 to July 2024, sorry. Now, this one, I can do it by going back to my Excel sheets and then identify. But what I really want to do is give a prompt saying that, hey, probably a thing on Zoho or maybe on Tally saying that, can you pull this data for me?
Tejas is putting you on the mat right now here, asking you whether a particular feature can be included. If you could complete the question, please, quickly. Yeah.
Yes, so that level of Gen AI usage in either Zoho or Tally, when can I expect?
Yeah, it's not too far off. Some of the experiments are already happening. We're trying stuff with some of our customers already. The trick, though, I think from our side, and others will have different views, I think from our side is to make sure that only you know this, and that we never get to see it. And the moment you start learning how AI works, you potentially start getting scared that there's so much data that needs to be consumed to actually teach it, that it's tempting for the model to start picking your data and showing it to someone else. It's not that it'll show your data, but it'll learn off your data. So the trick is for us to get it to work. You should be able to literally go on an airplane with no internet and use the model, right? I think for me that's a great acid test. So we're trying it with a few people. I'll hope to get it to you soon.
Sure, I can test your model.
Can I attempt to just add on to what Tejas said? I think a beautiful question, and in fact, in one of your questions that you asked about the integration into your organization, into your workflow. The way AI is evolving is each application has its own embedded AI, right? But as a business, you need something that cuts across all of this. You want something that talks to your SAP or your ERP, something that talks to your CRM, something that talks to your production planning aspects, your HR elements. You have a siloed application environment in a typical environment. How do I have an AI piece that cuts across all this and gets you an ability to go? The question you asked, my sales data of this period, and it's a simple NLP question that you ask. The system recognizes which application it needs to go back to and go respond. Answer to that question, it exists today, and that's the role IBM plays on how do we cut across these siloed systems and get you AI-powered, enabled enterprise. How do I move from a co-pilot to a workflow-optimized environment?
Thank you very much. It's like a co-CEO.
Okay. Any other questions? The one at the back, please.
Hi, I'm Pradeep. I work in an engineering college as an incubation manager. So all of majority of our students use generative AI today. So the main problem with generative AI is the credibility of the information that puts out. Okay, I believe most of these AI models are fed with information that are already available publicly. The problem lies with the information that is being fed. In future, will there be proprietary models where the information is fed only from one source, where the information is optimized, moderated, and verified?
Sanket, would you like to take that?
Sure, yeah. So that's happening today. We, for example, have our Einstein Studio, which allows you to create your own models if you'd like to, or further train models, right? It all depends on what you'd like to achieve. But the fundamental problem today is people are blindly believing whatever they get out of whatever model they're using. And everybody's familiar with LLMs now. Now the concept of SLMs is coming in, because you don't necessarily need a very large language model with thousands and thousands of points of data to be connected. An SLM would do just fine. In case yours is a small enterprise, you don't want to have your data go another place. And going back to what Siddesh had said is, look, we have a product which has now become very popular amongst all our customers. It's called Data Cloud. And the fundamental idea behind that is exactly what he was talking about. You have data in various parts of your enterprise. In case for your college, you might have data that's spread across various systems. Being able to integrate that and then leveraging that data to create your models, which will allow you to do interesting generative or predictive AI on top of that, that's the fundamental idea, right? And so in this case, of course, you can. The other part is, if you're running your enterprise, you should try to, your college IT systems, for example, try to bring in systems, try to bring in products that know how to leverage the data in this manner. So you should not have to reinvent the wheel. And one of the fundamental things I'd like to really emphasize is, you should not have to reinvent the wheels, leverage products that allow you to do so. Now, if your students want to create a model, all those facilities are available. Thank you.
Would have loved to take on more questions. Unfortunately, we are completely out of time. I would like to thank all my panelists for taking the time to be here. Special call out to Vidya. She came in all the way from Chennai to be here with us. Thank you so much. Sanket was actually traveling. He flew back specially from Hyderabad just to be with us. And for Siddesh, now this has become a fairly regular appearance. Thank you, Siddesh. Appreciate you taking the time to be with us. Tejas, thank you again for your time. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Over to the MC.
We'd like to thank the panel. Can we give them a bigger round of applause for this? Thank you so much. I'd like to request Mr. Venkatesha Babu and Vidu Shankar, Zonal Head, Karnataka and East, the Hindu group, to please hand over mementos to all our panelists, please. So that's a panelist selfie being taken. So after that very interesting and insightful panel discussion one, we now move on to the next part of the program. The second panel discussion today is on the topic financial and liquidity needs of MSME sector. The discussion will be moderated by Aarti Krishnan, Consulting Editor, The Hindu BusinessLine. Welcoming you on stage, ma'am. I'd like to invite our panelists on stage. We have Ashish, the co-founder and COO at Jumbo Tail, India's leading B2B marketplace and new retail platform for food and grocery. He leads business and operations at Jumbo Tail and is deeply passionate about using technology to solve real-world problems. Prior to this, he was a management consultant with Boston Consulting Group, where he worked on diverse projects, including a long-term project for solving leakages in public distribution system in India using biometric identification and Aadhaar. He also founded NextDrop, a software-based service to track intermittent availability of piped Abhiroop. Welcome, sir, on stage. Can we hear it for him, please? Our next panelist is Abhiroop Medhekar, co-founder and CEO of Velocity. And we understand he is building the future of banking and financial services for new age businesses in India. Having worked as a venture capitalist and a founder in the past, he is passionate about reimagining financing products for digital first businesses. He has worked with a VC with Elevation Capital, leading investments in fintech and financial services sectors for the fund. Welcoming Abhiroop with us on the dais. Our next panelist is Mr. Sanjay Gupta, Chief General Manager, SIDBI, Southern and Western Zonal Office, Ahmedabad. He joined SIDBI in '91 as a staff officer, grade A, as a direct recruit officer, and he has completed more than 31 years of service. He's been a part of the first batch of direct recruit officers by SIDBI. Further, he was posted as general manager and was heading the regional office of SIDBI at Ahmedabad, which caters to the entire state of Gujarat. Welcoming you, sir. Thank you for being here with us. And with this, I'll hand it over to our moderator.
So welcome to all the panelists. After speaking about something so hi-fi as the application of AI in MSMEs and talking about how MSMEs can adopt generative AI and all these very fanciful subjects, we are sort of down to terra firma and talking about the liquidity and financing needs of MSMEs. And what I'd like to really mention is, while we are talking about AI only this year and it's a new subject, for almost as long as I've been a financial journalist, we've been talking about the financing needs of MSMEs. So, so let me kick off this panel with that question. And I'm very glad to have such a diverse set of panelists here today, because usually it is common to discuss this topic with bankers, etc. But today we have three very people with very unique perspectives on this. So we have Mr. Sanjay Gupta, who with SIDBI actually has an eagle's eye view of this whole SME financing piece. And I'm sure for many, many decades, SIDBI has overseen both direct financing and refinancing of the lending institutions that actually deal with MSMEs. So very happy to have you here. Then we have Mr. Ashish Jeena. I mean, Jumbo Tail is doing some excellent work, and I wasn't aware of it before today, so I'm really glad for this learning opportunity also. Of making these traditional mom and pop stores, the Kirana stores, digitally ready, and also making them market ready, actually a go-to-market piece that Jumbo Tail is actually filling for these MSMEs. Then we have Abhiroop with us. Velocity is doing some excellent work on cash flow based funding of new age businesses. So the important thing there is traditionally basically all MSME financing is based on tangible assets, receivables, inventory and such things, whereas they are doing work where they look at the cash flows of the D2C brands and other new age businesses and trying to provide financing to that, right? So let's kick off the panel with one common subject on which I'd like to have comments from all of you. So this MSME funding gap, right? So if you do a Google search, I mean, the first thing you come across is about the lack of liquidity, lack of credit, etc. And I was reading a recent EY report that there is still a MSME credit gap of about 25 trillion in India, 25 lakh crores. So despite so many government schemes over the years, I mean, as journalists, we've covered ECLGS, credit guarantee scheme, then we have Swanidhi and Mudra, and despite all this, why does this gap still exist? I mean, can I hear from you, Mr. Gupta?
First of all, let me express my sincere thanks to BusinessLine for organizing this event on World MSME Day and inviting me. I'm extremely thankful. As you rightly said that the funding gap in the MSME sector is huge. It is approximately 25 lakh crores and different reports keep on increasing this particular figure. As we all know that MSMEs, the financial needs of the MSMEs are quite diverse. And the organizational structure of MSMEs in our country is also very, very unique. About 6.5 to 7 crores MSMEs which are there in the country, almost more than 90-95% of the units are in micro sector, which is quite informal. They don't have even their GST registration number. Then 2-3% are small enterprises and the remaining are medium enterprises. There are certain historical reasons that why this much gap in the funding of MSME exists in our country, despite the fact that MSME is the backbone of Indian economy, which has been elaborately explained in the previous session about the contribution of MSMEs and all that. Well, I think that the first and the foremost point which comes in the way of extending finance to MSMEs is the inhibition on part of banks and financial institutions, because these MSMEs, particularly micro enterprises and small businesses, they don't have a credit history. See, all these public financial institutions, banks and financial institutions, they see the previous trend, they see the previous credit history of the borrower, and then they come forward and give the lending. So lack of credit history of these MSMEs, particularly micro enterprises and informal micro enterprises, is coming in the very big way of extending finance to most deserving MSMEs also. The second and the another important reason is the lack of collateral. Basically, you all know that the public sector banks and financial institutions, they are only doing the secured lending, and we are governed by the audit, we are governed by the CVC, CBI guidelines and all that. So there is the first generation entrepreneurs and mostly those MSMEs, those entrepreneurs which are not able to afford a good collateral, matching collateral, the banks feel very, very scary and skepticism. So in order to alleviate this problem, SIDBI has taken a very, you all know that CGTMSE was established way back in 2000 when SIDBI took the lead along with Ministry of MSME. So the basic idea was to allay this fear, allay this inhibition from the minds of the bankers and financial institutions that if the project is viable, if the project is doable, and the project is capable of generating the revenue which will self-liquidate the loan, but the entrepreneur is not able to give the collateral, you come forward, lend, and there is an institution which will guarantee that loan. So I'm very happy to inform that over the years, CGTMSE has grown very huge in its stature, and in the FY23 itself, more than 1 lakh crore worth of guarantees were issued, and in FY24, within 6 months, this 1 lakh crore worth of guarantees were completed in just 6 months' time. So, see, a very transformations has also been introduced by CGTMSC in its schemes. You all know that the threshold limit of guarantee has also been increased from 2 crores to 5 crores worth of loan. There is a massive reduction in the guarantee fees, and there are extended guarantee covers for aspirational districts, for enterprises promoted by women entrepreneurs, SC, ST, and all that. So this will come a long way in bridging this particular credit gap. And the third and the another most important reason that still banks are looking for the asset-based financing type of model. Whereas the sector is changing very fast, the needs are changing very fast, MSMEs, they need very quick and small ticket size loan of disbursement type of thing. So a new model which is slowly emerging with the help of the fintechs, banks and NBFCs and FIs are also adopting that. It is a cash-based financing model. So as and when this model picks up and we are able to cover more and more enterprises into the cash-based lending, I'm sure that this gap will definitely lessen. But nevertheless, it will take a huge time to cover this entire unmet gap. But if all the stakeholders and, to some extent, I will say that MSMEs also, if they try to depict their actual turnover in the books, if they try to adopt the digital footprints, they will develop a credit history that will give some confidence to the bankers and the lenders also to lend to the doable projects. So this gap is persisting as of now, but gradually it will reduce.
Right. I mean, those points about how much of the bank lending especially is still dependent on collateral, credit history. You're trying to solve that problem, right, in Velocity. I mean, you lend to D2C businesses like Smoor, for example. I know Smoor because I order from them. So
yes, great chocolates.
Yeah, that's right. So these really small businesses where the tangible assets, this traditional inventory, plant and machinery may not exist, right?
Yeah.
So how are you solving that problem?
So see, I'll also just touch upon a few points that Sir made also, that I think MSME gap still remains. Definitely lack of collateral is one reason that people may not have collateral, but they have a good viable business which has cash flows. So the financing model needs to move to a cash flow based model. But beyond that, I think, as was correctly pointed out, that the MSME gap is towards the smaller end of the entire spectrum, right? So which is more costly to serve for the bank because the potential revenue opportunity at an individual MSME level may not be very high. So the commercial incentives will push the financer towards the bigger customers, larger corporates, etc. And that's why this gap remains. So it has to be a model in which these people are discoverable through online channels. That's the approach that we have taken, is that we approach MSMEs who are essentially connected to any of the e-commerce platforms. If they're selling on Zomato, if they're selling on Amazon, if they're selling on Flipkart, then it becomes easy and cheaper for us to approach them, discover them, understand their cash flows on the back of these platforms, and then offer financing on the back of that model. So it's both discoverability through digital connected media, as well as the fact that you do get a lot of cash flow information that you can access and that you can use to assess the risk of the underlying loan. And that becomes premise of the new approach that we are trying to work upon. I believe that India is at a point where this is only going to become better and better over time. Because what is happening is that there is this big wave of SME formalization that is anyway happening, driven by digital payments, driven by GST, driven by a higher share of banking transactions that you can see in their bank statements actually. All of these are tangible, decade-long changes which are going to happen. And I am extremely bullish on the fact that on the back of this, a lot of financing will be made available to the MSME sector. And we can already see banks, NBFCs, fintechs, all working hard towards addressing that gap.
Right. Yeah. So Ashish, coming to you, I mean, he's dealing with firms that are discoverable digitally, but you are dealing with businesses that have traditionally been completely off the net, right? So the small mom and pop stores, retail trade, which is actually the backbone of India's services economy itself. So how have you, I mean, why does a credit gap exist there, and what can be done to actually solve it?
So, hello? Yeah. Before coming here, I was looking at the exact precise definition of, even the micro end of the MSME. The micro end goes all the way up to 5 crores in turnover and about 1 crore rupees in investment. we deal with Kirana stores. So we are an e-commerce platform that connects 175,000 Kirana stores all across the country to 2,000 brands and over 5,000 manufacturers and suppliers looking to sell their products in Kirana stores. Anything that you can buy in a Kirana store is available on our platform. We solve for payment, logistics, warehousing, literally the entire ecosystem to make it easier. We also help Kirana stores transform their stores into omni-channel grocery stores to be able to serve the needs of the modern consumer in urban India. Now, we've been doing enablement of lending in this ecosystem for about 7.5 out of the 9 years that we've been in existence. We'll approach this year, we'll end up at about 1 crore transactions enabled. Average ticket size is 4,000 rupees.
Oh.
Right? And that's where part of the problem exists, right? This is not multiple issues that you contend with. See, if a Kirana store, 600 SKUs, no collateral, 3 to 5 lakh rupees of investment, 3 to 5 lakh rupees of sales on a monthly basis, 100 to 125 different suppliers. It doesn't get more fragmented than this. Most of them have no GST registration. Udhyam is starting to come up. And therefore, there's a massive challenge in both underwriting, but also a challenge in actually collections and repayment, right? This is not an AUM building exercise that anybody will be attracted to. I almost feel like, MSME does injustice. I mean, we are talking at the nano end of the nano enterprise part of it. And that's part of the reasons where, a lot of, we're not a NBFC, we work with NBFCs. One of the challenges I see is people try and use the same metrics and the same processes for even a SMOR or somebody who's running a small manufacturing facility to underwrite a Kirana. That doesn't work, right? It just is not going to work. This model is only workable if you have access to data, obviously with the permission of the customer, that gives you insight into flows. We're in the fortunate situation to actually have a very large share of wallet of some of our customers, 25-30% in a customer that actually deals with over 100 customers gives you access to a little bit more information that allows people to have comfort. But I wouldn't want to trivialize, this to just an underwriting problem. I think one of the bigger challenges is, we're approaching about 3,500 crores of transactions now on credit. 99.7% repayment rate, right? When people look at this segment of customers, they say, oh, very high risk. If you do it well, it actually is probably the best return on investment that you can have, right? But obviously, it requires you to be technology enabled at an NBFC or a lender side, right? You can't do this if you're using paper. It has to be API enabled. You can't have a lot of physical touch points. Our deliveries actually enable us to, do collections, because still collections, despite the progress of UPI, a lot of cash is still coming in, right? And these are problems that this ecosystem needs to solve. And I almost feel like you need to sort of solve for nano very separately compared to, even micro. And that's where part of, I think, the solutions will come from. But it's an exciting time to be building. I think we're seeing a lot of traction. And, it's great to see people, I wouldn't say waking up. I mean, I think everybody's been pretty aware of the fact that this is required. But finally, I think across the digital adoption spectrum, across, government policy, the fact that, we have people like Sidby on this panel means that I think there's a massive opportunity over the next few years to actually correct that gap.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because even traditionally, the problem has been that this medium and small actually hog a lot of the bank credit, and the micro really gets squeezed out, and the micro makes up 90-95% of the enterprises, right? So, and recently there has been a change in the government definition also in 2020, where they have substantially lifted the definition turnover to 5 crore for micro, and the medium actually goes to 250 crores, right, sir? So how has that actually changed the dynamics of lending? Has it made it even tougher for these nano enterprises to actually get formal finance?
This is a very good thing. This is a very good question. See, as a part of Atma Nirbhar package, which was unveiled by Honorable Finance Minister in 2020 when country was grappling with COVID, there was a massive increase in the definition of micro, small and medium. Just for the benefit of the audience and all that, let me just slightly elaborate on that. Previously, there was a distinction between manufacturing and service enterprises also, and there was a definition which was linked to investment in plant and machinery for manufacturing enterprises and investment in equipment for service enterprises. The definition, or we can say the threshold, was very, very less. For micro, the investment in plant and machinery was for manufacturing enterprises. For micro, it was only 25 lakhs. And for 25 lakhs, and then for small, it was, I think, 5 crores. And for medium, it was 10 crores. And for services, the investment in equipment for micro, 10 lakhs, 2 crores, and 5 crores. This was the definition. So this government of India thought that this definition was fixed long time back in 2006 when MSME Act was enacted and all that, and over a period the inflation went so high, the plant and machinery's investments also, and this particular definition was inhibiting the MSMEs to come out of the MSMEs domain, because they were fearing that they will lose all the benefits and the incentives which are being given by the government of India for benefit of MSME sector. So realizing this and again moving in tandem with the world definition of MSMEs, the government of India took a very bold step. First, the distinction between manufacturing and service enterprises was done away with, and then two criteria were brought into. One criteria was investment in plant and machinery, and second was the turnover also. So for this micro enterprises, see, from 25 lakhs, investment was made to 1 crore. And the turnover was 5 crores. For small, it is 10 crore up to 50 crores. And then for medium enterprises, 50 crores investment in plant and machinery and up to 250 crores worth of turnover. Another important thing which is very, very important, which Government of India did, while computing the quantum of turnover, they have removed the component of exports, which is done by the MSMEs. The basic idea is to enable these MSMEs to export more and more and make India a very export-oriented, export-dominated country. So since there is a massive increase, massive upward in the definition of both all micro, small and medium enterprises, it has been accepted very well by the industry also and by the bankers also. There has been a great increase in the credit offtake across all the segments. As far as SIDBI is concerned, I can say that, ma'am, in last 4 years, our lending to MSMEs through refinance as well as through direct finance has multiplied 4 times. Our loans and advances portfolio, which was lower than 1 lakh crore, sometimes in FY20, we ended our balance sheet of assets, loans and advances of 4,50,000 crore. So this is, if one organization has done this, across the country you can see that there has been massive growth in the credit for this MSME sector. So this enhancement in definition has enabled the MSMEs to now come forward, ask for the loans and advances from the banks and financial institutions without fearing that they will lose the benefits and incentives of the MSME, because now sky is going to be the limit. This up to medium enterprises also 50 crores of turnover, 50 crores of investment in plant and machinery, and that is not the gross block. That is again the depreciated value of plant and machinery filed as per the last ITR, and turnover up to 250 crores excluding the export. So now the canvas has become very, very big. There is a lot of opportunity for every player to fill this gap of 25 lakh crores which was existing. So I have seen from SIDBI's point of view and from the industry point of view, there has been good increase in the credit, and I see further traction also in the times to come.
Yeah, so Ashish, would you agree that this has helped the kind of enterprises that you deal with?
See, I think there's definitely more interest, right? But I will also be honest about, part of the problem sometimes lies in the metrics that we use, right? If you look at it, all of us talk in, lakhs of crores, thousands of crores, etc. When you do that, you automatically push attention towards larger tickets, right? And that's one of the reasons why I believe, right? We work with a lot of NBFCs. We've talked to a lot of people. Anybody who comes in the door saying, my goal over the next year is to build an AUM of X crores, I know in the first 5 minutes that's going to be a problem in that conversation, right? Some of these conversations need to start with how many enterprises or how many businesses are you building into the formal net, right? Credit is a need that evolves over time. People's ability to absorb credit also evolves over time, but you have to have a starting point. And in my opinion, in the nano enterprise, in the Kirana segment, right? The first input is building, credit behavior, right? Building behavior around the fact that there's a certain amount of discipline. There's a certain amount of, ability to manage cash flow. We spend a lot of our time with our customers actually educating them on how to manage cash flows, right? Because just to give you a sense, if we define bounce as, we have a 21-day credit product. And if you don't pay on the 21st day, you call it a theoretical bounce. Any guesses on what that bounce percentage is, right? Which is on the day that you're supposed to pay back, what percentage of people don't pay back? Just wild guess.
25%?
So you're actually very close. It's about 18 to 21% don't pay on that day, but they pay very quickly after that, right? And that is indicative of the fact that people don't have the obviously simple things like this, right? It rains today. I anticipated more customers would come in. They did not come in. Or India-England match. I'm very conscious of the fact that people will start losing interest in 5 minutes. I anticipated a number of customers would walk in the evening today. India's playing England, exciting match, fewer people come in, quite likely I'm going to default on some payment tomorrow, right? And therefore, that behavior takes time to build. That takes, a very different view of how to look at credit. And one important element is the metrics that we use, right? This is not going to result in tens of thousands of crores of, capital overnight. By the way, I'm of the view that, the way to, this is not about, we should also not turn these conversations into how much credit to deploy, right? Financial needs can be solved by various other mechanisms. For example, faster inventory turns reduce and obviate the need for credit itself, right? We see this with suppliers that are, micro enterprises that are selling to these retailers. The fact that you can actually do this and not have to hold, huge amounts of inventory in your pipeline because you have much better visibility into what is demand and you can manufacture according to that, fundamentally reduces the need of credit. You will not end up with, AUM there, but you will actually have solved a fundamental problem in this ecosystem. That's how I would look at it.
So when we traditionally think of MSMEs and when we used to hold these conclaves many years ago, it used to be typically about exporters from Tirupur or engineering manufacturers from Coimbatore and so on. But the Indian economy has transformed so much, and today if you see where consumers are actually spending the bulk of their incomes, recently there was a household expenditure survey also. Increasingly people are spending on services and experiences and less on goods and essentials, right? So are MSMEs also changing accordingly, or do they remain sort of wedded to the old exports and that kind of a business? What have you observed?
So I would say that certainly MSMEs are changing with the demand and with the trends. We are very close to the fact that a lot of demand is moving online, for example. A lot of retail transactions are moving to e-commerce. And that is going to be further powered by ONDC growing over time, right? And we see that in line with that, the number of MSMEs who are selling online, that is growing at a rate of 35 to 40% year on year. We track that very closely because that is our bread and butter. But that is a very phenomenal growth. You also mentioned that if you look at the sectoral split, then people are essentially moving from the need part of Maslow's hierarchy to the desire part of Maslow's hierarchy, right? That people are keen to spend on experiences, people are keen to spend on fashion and lifestyle, etc. And these are big categories where MSMEs are also building their business. So I feel that MSMEs are definitely watching where the demand is going, and they are eager to essentially be in those channels, be in those areas where the consumer interest is going to move. And I would say that another very interesting trend that we see, as you talked about exporters and like traditional manufacturers, etc., is that as the next generation is essentially coming to business, they are keen to do something new age. So already, for example, we work with a lot of brands in which the previous generation's business was an exporter business, manufacturing business, but the next generation has come in and they are keen to leverage some of the assets, but to build a digital first brand out of it, right? That's a very clear trend that we are seeing in the market.
So, Sanjay, if MSMEs are also changing in character, how much do these traditional lending models which involve hypothecation of inventory and then bills discounting, banks tend to look at it that way, right? So for these new age businesses, they may not have much inventory. The business may be on a cash basis, not so much of receivables. Or they may be very fragmented receivables which can't be discounted, etc. So are you seeing the change happening in the lenders also to cater to this kind of business?
Yeah, definitely I see a lot of change. As I mentioned in the beginning also that now the requirement of micro enterprises and the MSME sector is basically cash flow based type of funding where they require small ticket size loans very, very quickly, and the turnaround time should be very, very less. So various new age fintechs have come. And like, SIDBI has also promoted online PSB loans in 59 minutes. That is one example of that. Realizing this thing as a lender, as a responsible lender for the MSME, we have also taken very proactive steps in developing these type of products. I will tell that by using completely automated product, we have introduced in the market for the first time. I think SIDBI is the first lender to introduce a completely digitized product of up to 3 crores worth of loan, which we call it as Express. It is a completely paperless, it's a machine algorithm-based lending thing in which the borrower and the lender, they don't even see face-to-face each other. They have to only simply key in certain data into the package, into the website, and how it develops. See, every lender is now developing its own model. The fintechs are also developing their own model, that how to assess the credit worthiness of these NBFCs, not on the basis of the previous credit track record, which they may not be having, but for the future cash flows and all that. So I'm very happy to inform that SIDBI, that CIBIL and PSB online in 59 minutes under the mentorship of SIDBI, we have developed a very powerful tool, madam. This is called FIT, Financial Income Trade. This is a rank. This rank is between 1 to 10, and this 1 is the highest, 10 is the lowest. What this rank does, you know that these days lot of digital, the world is moving towards digital. GST is digital, ITR is digital, bank statements are digital, and account aggregator framework and all that. So this financial income trade rank takes into consideration 3-4 major aspects of a particular MSME, which is, asking for these type of fast loans. They will first off see the GST returns filed by the enterprise over the last few years. What will be the GST returns? How is the GST sales? What are the suppliers? What are the customers? It's a complete report. Then income tax returns filed by the enterprise over the last 2-3 years. And then the bank statement, how much credit is coming out of the sales, how much he is deploying in the business, how much he is taking out of the business. So based on these 3 important parameters, financial, income and trade, the system computes, the algorithm computes a FIT rank, which is from 1 to 10. One is this FIT rank is nothing but the probability of an MSME going into default in the next 12 months. So if this rank is high, and this is very, very tough rank, if MSMEs are getting 1 to 6 ranks, which is an investable rank as far as SIDBI is also concerned, straight away blindly, you can give loans to them, and you are rest assured that it is going to come. Because this digital revolution is this fintech lending or this digital changing, whatever has taken place in the ecosystem. This is the lender, before extending the finance to the MSME, he has himself ensured very much to such an extent that the credit behavior, the repayment behavior, the geographical spread of the enterprise, everything else is taken care of by this, because the machine, do not tell a lie. So this particular rank gives a lot of comfort to the lender, and it is going to increase, and SIDBI is also doing much more business in this express type of funding, and we are the first one to introduce up to 3 crores worth. So I see that this new age fintech type of funding, wherein they are going to use these digital tools, and without the knowledge of today, MSMEs must realize that by using the digital footprints, by selling, showing their returns in the GST, filing their income tax return, paying their credit card dues in time, they are not only, without their knowledge, the lender knows much about them. If the credit history of the particular micro enterprise or small enterprise is good, the lenders will keep running to their doorstep to offer the loans. If the credit score, if the CMR is good, if the Jokata rating is good, if your CIBIL score is more than 8 or 850, people will keep coming and running to you. The onus here, I would like to utilize this platform to tell MSMEs also that time has come, friends. Now you also need to inculcate some sort of digital discipline in you. Do business in number 1. Show your returns. File your returns in time. You never know that a small lapse on your part, even once, is enough to spoil your credit record, your credit history, and whatever credentials you have built over a long period of time, it will be spoiled. So onus is on my MSME brothers and sisters also to flow with the world, to go digital and
Do everything transparently, fairly, comply with the rules, and then you will see there is no dearth of lenders who will not ever come to you and offer the loans. But the point is how compliant, how meticulous we are in following the rules and regulations.
Yeah, so suppose some of these MSMEs are below the GST threshold limit and actually income tax threshold limits. So in those cases, you say that you do facilitate finance, right? So who are these financiers and at what kind of rates do they actually lend? And what do they use as raw material to assess credit?
So, today, out of the 175,000 retailers that we power using the Jumbotail platform, I think about 80% of them have some form of credit line or the other orchestrated through the platform. Starting as low as 2,000 rupees, and then, building up over a period of time. We work with, a number of new age, fintechs and NBFCs who are in turn working with larger lenders on the other side. I just wanted to maybe address a point that Sir was making earlier, right? Which is, I think it's absolutely critical that, people file taxes, I think about 3% of our retailers have GST. Right? And if you really look at, so there are definitely going to need to be other mechanisms of underwriting. And also, I think one is about, mechanisms like GST, obviously very, very critical, but we'll have to have other mechanisms, which is where, transactions on platforms like ours or anchors, embedded finance is actually a quite helpful way of doing it, because not only is that transaction validated, it is validated by somebody who has an interest in making sure that that prepayment actually happens. But also, I think the need for, these are still points in time, right? This is, you file your returns once a quarter, sometimes once, a year for other things. I think the world has come, and Mr. Ganesh was talking about this, the previous panel alluded to this as well. We're in a much faster changing world, right? I mean, just simple things like, if I'm a Kirana store and somebody, a government body digs up the road in front of my shop for the next 3 months, my cash flows are going to suffer. Irrespective of what, even if I was a large enough entity to have filed GST, it's quite likely I am going to suffer stress. So I think the pace of underwriting, this has to be constantly underwritten, right? The data streams have to be real time or near real time. And you have to constantly keep understanding and evaluating based on a large number of parameters, which is what, platforms like us are trying to do. Not just, in terms of what you're buying, the type of products that you're buying, because many times we've realized things that are sold by retailers to restaurants, which by the way have a massive mortality rate, right? The chances of a restaurant going belly up are much higher than a retailer going belly up. But if you're buying products that are actually getting sold into a retailer, into a restaurant, the risk that we perceive to you is actually much higher than if you're selling to consumers, which is a lot more steady business, right? If you're actually selling things in an area where there are a lot of PGs, where people go away sometimes during periods. We saw this during COVID a lot. Your risk of default is much higher if you're in a residential area where people are not going to go away, right? And so I think the need for us to look beyond, not only just to absolutely to use the data that the government and the digital public infrastructure is a tremendous asset to all of us trying to solve this problem. But I think there's a lot of data that is embedded in the transaction and in the provision of services and goods to these enterprises, which if with their permission, if you're able to use and help underwrite, then you reward good behavior. You reward not only good financial behavior, you also reward behavior which is taking an appropriate amount of risk, but not too much risk, not over leveraging, not having concentration on customers that will actually be extremely dangerous. In terms of rates, right? They will be typical rates. They'll end up being in the, these loans are closer to, I guess, personal loans in terms of rates. We try our best to bring those down.
Absolutely.
And that's where one of the best, so you'll end up in the, late teens, early 20s, is what you'll end up in. Our goal is to bring this down. On this panel, I would say if Sidbi went on the panel, we could bring it down much, much lower. And this is one of the things that we'd love to be able to do. Because if you really look at it from a risk basis, it's a much lower risk than we perceive. And that's where I believe that, there's an opportunity, there's pricing arbitrage available to bring it down dramatically. And also, if you were to follow traditional norms to underwrite, not more than 25% of these people would actually get access. we are able to increase that substantially by virtue of the data, and also in some time, in the early days when we started out 6-7 years ago, we were providing guarantees, right? And once you have credit history, lenders are a lot more comfortable. But I would say on this platform, I'm putting you on the spot, sir, but I'd love for you to lend on our platform, right? Because it can bring the cost down tremendously.
Right. So Abhiru, you actually do this lending, right, to these businesses. So what is it that you look for while lending to these businesses that are far below the GST threshold, may not have formal books of account, no inventory also? So what do you really look at when assessing them for credit?
Sure.
And what has been your experience? Are the default rates in the single digits? What is it like?
So to just clarify, we don't lend on our own books right now. We have applied for the NBFC license, but right now we work with banks and NBFCs in which we originate the demand for them. But we also provide a bunch of data points to them which can support their underwriting process. And what we have seen there is that particularly when you're talking about the lower end of the spectrum, right, where people are not even filing GST because they are not of that scale yet, there also they have some transaction data that would be there on the platform. So the platforms that we work with, which includes e-commerce platforms, which includes food delivery apps, etc., you would see a lot of entities there which are doing some volume there. And because of our partnerships, we are able to get that data directly from the source. So it's not touched by the borrower at all, but we are directly able to pull it from the source itself. And that data becomes an important input for the partner financer that we have to be able to assess the cash flow, to be able to assess the patterns in terms of seasonality, in terms of the potential, any issues that they are supposed to face, etc. And they can build their underwriting models based upon that. So we believe that as a lot of transactions are moving online, it could be transactions on e-commerce platforms, but more broadly, I think it would also be digital payments driven by UPI, right? I mean, all the retailers today are accepting UPI, and that is actual cash flow data that is available for the financiers to understand the cash flow, the daily actual remittances which are happening in the bank account, which is extremely valuable from the point of view of you being able to assess the eligibility of the customer and extend a credit line to the customer based upon their scale.
So recently, one problem that most MSMEs complain of is this problem of receivables, where their clients don't pay them in time and keep stretching the timeline. And I know of many, many policy interventions to try and crunch this, from declaration in annual report and all that stuff. And recently, the government tried to enforce it by saying that you have to pay your MSME vendors within 45 days. And surprisingly, as a journalist, we reported on this, and most of the pushback came from the MSME associations themselves, saying, we don't want this 45-day limit. What is this? What's happening here?
Actually, it's a catch-22 type of situation, this rule of 45 days. One of the perennial problem with the MSMEs is the lack of working capital finance, lack of working capital. And since most of the MSMEs are vendor of the big corporates, and they are supplying parts, sub-assemblies, accessories, components, and the credit period goes up to 4 to 5 months also. So the point is, this rule was made last year by the Honorable Finance Minister, Section 43BH, that for the MSME payment you will get the deduction of expenses only in that year in which you will pay. Otherwise, 45 days limit is there. So to elevate, there may be some reservations from the MSMEs, because probably the corporates are bullying them that, we will not do now further business with you because now this rule has come, and you were working with us so fine for the last so many years with 3-4 months of credit period. So it's a mix of, some change of mindset also is required to be to take place at the levels of the corporates also, because they know that unless they repay in time or within 45 days to these MSMEs, how they will be able to deploy that money back into the business. And if there are reservations and protests from MSME associations itself, I don't know what will be the real reason, because this drastic measure Government of India has taken only to benefit them, because since centuries there has been a hue and cry that the working capital problem is the basic problem, sir. We don't get the payment of our supplies made to these big corporates or even to government in time. I'll just tell you, in order to elevate this problem, you must have heard about TREDS, Trade Receivable Discounting System. SIDBI was the, SIDBI again took lead. See, let me tell you, friends, I don't know how much you know about SIDBI. Besides financing, we are working for the development of the ecosystem of the MSMEs as such, starting from establishment of CGTMSE to Stand Up India, Startup, Mudra, PM Swanidhi, PM Vishwakarma, all these things, Udyami Mitra portal, all these things are being managed by us. So एक picture के director की तरह पर्दे के पीछे रह के we are doing so many things, but in the forefront it is not becoming visible to the public. So entire MSME ecosystem is being taken care by SIDBI, and with the help of, in association with NSC, I think SIDBI was the first one to establish first receivable exchange of India, RIXL. So this TREDS is a very good platform, and government has mandated that all those corporates which have a turnover of more than 500 crores, they have to be mandatorily, listed on this TREDS platform. But the other day I was just reading a report, more than 5,000 companies have been identified by Ministry of Corporate Affairs which have turnover of more than 500 crores, which are mandatorily to be listed on this TREDS platform. But you will be surprised to note, not even 2,000 companies have been listed. So, what I feel that if we have to elevate, if we have to counter this problem of delayed payment to the MSMEs, much more stricter rules have to be made for all those corporates which are having a turnover of 500 crores or more. Now there is a demand that you reduce this threshold to 250 crores. Maybe in this coming budget, Honorable Finance Minister may announce that also. Because the perennial problem of MSMEs is the working capital. If they don't get the repayment, if they don't get the payment of their supplies in time, they are doomed. They are just finished. So this is, if associations are making a hue and cry, I don't know, but this has been done by the government with a very good intention.
In fact, after we reported on this, we got a pushback from the finance ministry saying, we did this for the good of MSMEs only, now why are they come?
Why are they?
Avirup, you have
I can probably share a few perspectives on this because I have a bit of a different point of view on this, sir. I believe that different supply chains have different inherent credit periods. And a 45-day blanket period may not really apply to all the supply chains. That is one point to consider, because if you're selling to a buyer and the buyer has not been able to sell the goods to their customers, and you force the buyer to pay within 45 days, then they're going to come back to you and say that, okay, take your goods back, order cancelled, right? So it needs to be a bit more nuanced, in my opinion, that understanding that supply chain, understanding how fast that good moves, you can take a call in terms of what is the right credit period for that. Secondly, I think, I also believe that the first problem to solve is just visibility, because MSMEs should know that who is a good payer, who is not a good payer, right? As of now in the country, we have a CIBIL score. MSMEs give credit to their buyers. But there is no way for them to assess that is this a good paymaster or not, right? If information is provided like that, then they can take that call at the point of entering into that contract itself, and they can try and price that in. That's the second point that I had here. And third, I believe, is that, in B2B supply chains, this credit gap is going to remain, right? Because of the inherent nature that goods will take time to move, inventory needs to be held, and all of these credit periods keep on adding up, right? And I think that's where the role of the financiers come in, that you have financiers who would understand the supply chain, who would understand the overall working capital cycle, and then who can infuse capital which will essentially plug in the credit gap. So it's a combination of these couple of initiatives, in my opinion, which can address a gap. The problem is obviously there. MSMEs are facing working capital gaps, and a big part of the reason is that they are not getting paid on time. But in my opinion, it requires a more nuanced and comprehensive solution.
Yeah, those are very interesting. Ashish.
Just a 10-second thing, right? I think the intent is very clear and very honorable. Every supply chain has its own requirements, but I think it's also about, one size fits all often ignores the fact that, if you sort of look at the spirit and the intent behind what was intended, in my opinion, right? It is anything that is not voluntary and anything that is not predictable, right? Those are the things that you're trying to avoid, right? That I, entered this trade with an assumption that this money will come back in this much time. Now, without my permission, it's not coming back, or I expected it to come back in X days and it's not coming in X days. Those are the problems that actually need to be solved. The challenge with a 45-day blanket is it doesn't take into consideration that, different requirements are different, and that's where, it's a starting point. I'm sure, next version of this will sort of take that into consideration. But those are the two problems that you actually need to solve.
Absolutely. Because I do remember RBI reports, saying that Actually, the delinquency rates in large corporate borrowers in India are far higher than the MSME, actually. Even during the crisis time, global financial crisis, I remember reading these statistics. And much of these big defaults, people flying off to London, etc., you hear about are actually large corporates. So, yeah. So, a final question, which is a teaser. I mean, why is it that MSMEs actually which are profitable and have cash flows, face such a tough time actually raising funding, whether through the equity or debt route, while anybody who labels themselves as a startup and has tech in their name, they're able to raise billions in multiple series and then write it off also very quickly. So Ashish, would you like to take?
You are asking that why the startups are able to raise the funding quickly and why MSMEs are failing. It's a very, good question. These startups and MSMEs, you need to know the basic difference between the two structures. Startups are tech-based companies, ideas, which provide very faster, innovative solutions to an existing problem. And these are very high risk, high return type of thing. That is the definition of startup. We all know that. Investors see a lot of value in this, idea, in this particular startup. They know that if they invest, there is a probability of, going the money down the drain, or there is a probability of multiplying the money 10 times, 20 times, 100 times also. Who would have thought that Uber, without owning a single car in its fleet, will be the world's biggest car aggregator. Big Basket, our Mr. Ganesh is the director. People would not have thought sometime before that there would be platforms coming like this who would be delivering the household grocery at their doorstep. I myself started using this Big Basket for the first time during the COVID times when I was not able to go to the market to fetch the grocery for me. So startups are basically, ma'am, they are very lucrative. Today is the word of technology, and they provide, with the help of technology, they are able to provide solutions which will cater to the masses as such. Investors see a lot of value, and investors also see that there is a definite exit time frame also within that particular startup. If the startup if the startup idea works very well, and they will have the opportunity to take their money back, because the offloading will take place. Unlike MSME, here the, again, conventional type of manufacturing or service enterprises, there is no exit there is no exit option. So no doubt there are certain private equity players which are investing in the MSMEs also, but traditionally this is a sector which is not doing anything very innovative. They are basically in the, again, manufacturing of goods, supplying of the services also. Exit option is not there. If you have lent to an MSME, you will have to go by the loan repayment schedule, which is generally of typical 5 to 7 years. And there is no multiplication of your investment in that. Whatever you have lent, you are going to recover that only. So this, in my opinion, are certain 2-3 factors which make MSMEs less lucrative to the private equities as compared to the startups.
Ashish.
Slightly different take on this. I think when it comes to equity, you're right, it's a lot easier for companies like ours to raise that capital. On debt, it actually isn't. That story is very different. Even today, 9 years in, getting debt is a very different story. But I think in terms of why, MSMEs, I just want to I was just thinking about this, just struck me right now, right? We are here on World MSME Day. One of the reasons is also the media, right? I mean, if you think about,
Guilty.
Who is in the public imagination, who is getting, there's a reinforcement cycle, right? I mean, vast majority of the jobs in this country are provided by MSMEs. Yet, even on MSME Day, right, there's not a single MSME actually on this panel. And therefore, if you look at the, the public consciousness and, the people with the money, I mean, they're not really getting access to some of these stories. I can tell you, there's some very innovative people. There are some, vast majority of MSMEs, especially as you go further and further down, are doing these businesses to feed their families, to send their children to school for a better future. They have every incentive to make it work, and which is what makes them incredibly creditworthy, right? They definitely have challenges in terms of, just visibility. I mean, today is a great example of that, right? And I'll just end on, Lal Bahadur Shastri said, Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, right? And when we were starting our company, we said, the customer who is a nano entrepreneur must also play an important role. So our motto is Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, and on World MSME Day, Jai Dukan as well, and Jai Hind, obviously. But I think it's very important for us to, and I would request, right, as part of a day like this, representation, putting those stories in front of people is extremely important, because there's a lot of dogma, there's a lot of misplaced belief around the risk that you're entering into. It's not that high.
Yeah, point well taken, definitely.
So I would just allude to the point that sir made earlier, that I think different types of funders have different risk appetite, and they play in different zones from a risk return point of view. So you would have equity investors who are playing the high risk, high return game. And I was a VC before this, so that was the play, that you would essentially look at companies which can deliver outsized growth on the back of some innovative technology and who can potentially become a unicorn, right? Everyone talks about unicorn these days. Because the bet that a VC investor is placing is that I'll make 10 investments. Even if one of them work out and becomes a very large company, that will make up for the other 9 to fail. On the other hand, when you're talking about more predictable businesses which are cash flow positive, businesses which are actually growing at a steady pace, I would believe that banks and traditional lenders are a better way for them to fund that gap, because they are a profitable business. They can deliver a predictable kind of a rate of interest to the financer also. So it's a function of how fast you're looking to grow and what is the kind of return that you can deliver to the funder. But based upon that, I think VCs typically tend to gravitate towards those companies which can deliver higher returns, even if it is higher risk.
We've been out of time for some time now, and I won't keep people from their dinner for too long. So can I have just 2 or 3 questions, please? I mean, yeah, there's...
My name is Professor Dr. Parnama Raman, and so I work a lot in sustainable organizations as well. Now, irrespective of whether you call it a startup, MSME, these are just terminologies. At the core of it really is an idea and the manifestation, the processes that is built, and this kind of, why really is the policy for this not coming together? Is it a lack of just imagination, or because there is a certain challenge in scaling or in integration with the larger system, right? When we look at collaborations, even abroad, etc., there are chaebol concepts in Japan, Korea, even China. There are the Hauku system, the chaebol, the Keretsus. They are all conglomerates. Why can't similar MSMEs be grouped, have clusters? We used to have that in the ancient, my research shows that. And there's also clustering in Tamil Nadu. For example, there are certain spaces which are good for certain industries. So what is really the overall policy, and why is it not being done at the grassroots? Where is the research really on all this, and why is it not coming together?
I won't really have an informed point of view on that. That's not. So the question was not very clear. Can you articulate that again? Sorry.
I think she's asking why MSMEs are not better organized.
It was about organization of MSMEs. Sorry.
We don't have any way to say what is the, because we've aggregated this recently in the last decade. Say you have, but where are the real global collaborations? Where are the international associations for this? Why don't we have more knowledge about who is representing what at which regional or international forum, etc.? Why don't they get that opportunity, I'm saying? Because there is a certain value to getting global collaborations. Why should always it be the big and large enterprises? And why not just have this aggregation of representation for the MSMEs as a policy?
I think this will have to be spearheaded by the government, because I think even the Indian MSME associations are pretty splintered, sir. We keep dealing with multiple associations, and they often don't represent the same views also, actually, from what I've seen. So I think this is a point to be taken, and perhaps this is something for the government to actually organize or represent through the ministry or something like that, actually. Any other questions? Yeah, there's a gentleman there in the end.
Hi, good evening. My name is Srinivas. I'm from EasyPack. This is an answer actually to what Ms. Aarti has been asking. Like how Mr. Ashish quoted, there is no MSME in the panel to answer your question as to why the MSME did not like the 45-day rule. It's number one is that corporates are eating into the business of MSME. So if you bring this 45 days rule, so they are less preferred. This is one point. And in my personal experience, I had once quoted this MSME rule and written to the CEO of a big corporate to recover my payment, which was overdue for 1.5 years. They gave me my payment immediately, thanks to the rule, but they stopped my business also. So this is the answer to your question, ma'am.
Yes, thanks.
So if you can cover it somewhere in your
Right.
in an article, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I seem to be getting more inputs than the panels. There was somebody there, please. Please give the mic to that person.
Yeah, alluding to what this gentleman said, it's simple. I will put it this way. I'm just giving an example of Hyderabad. We are sitting in Bangalore and talking about Hyderabad. The Hyderabad, there is the pharmaceutical industry. I don't want to name any. Then it is pharmaceutical industry. People who supply, I'm talking about MSMEs who supply to the pharmaceutical industry in Hyderabad, they fear that they will not get their payment at all. And as he said, they will lose the business. Now, it is like, for example, you're squeezing somebody, you're trying to do business on somebody else's money. This is the general tendency. In the US, for example, when I was there, a friend of mine said, why the hell you have to go to somebody to ask for payment? When you raise an invoice, you get your payment. You don't have to go. Why do you have to go to Hyderabad to get your payment? At one point of time, this is the situation. This has been in the culture of things. You see, you try to, you squeeze. For example, large corporate. As she said, people move away to London and things like that, and to dupe the banks. Sir, you are from Sydney. So people who, there are major flaws like this. I don't want to name any particular company or any group, but basically I'm just giving you the reality. The reality is this. Basically, you don't really, they try to work on your working capital. Basically, they work on your money.
Understand, yeah. There's one time for a last question from the end there. Yeah.
Again, the same point, because I think all of you all seem to be struggling with trying to explain why it didn't work, Nirmala Sitharaman's. So, I think you have to recognize that 90% of MSMEs is B2B, right? So, within that context, I think it's the big B that does most of, it's right up there at the value chain. But at the horizontal, there is a lot of, B2B between MSMEs, in their supply chains. You don't really want that to get affected in your balance sheet, which reflects on your access to credit. And that's, if you look a little deeper into this aspect, you will understand why it didn't work.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So with that, we'll close this extremely lively panel. Thank you for very frank views and very insightful conversation.
Thank you so much for that very insightful panel discussion. I'm sure they deserve a bigger round of applause. Thank you so much. I'll request our moderator, Ms. Aarti Krishnan, to please hand over mementos. And I'll also invite Anil Malik, Zonal Head West, the Hindu Group, and N. Vaidyanathan, National Head Product Sale, BusinessLine, the Hindu Group, to please join us on stage and join our moderator in handing over mementos to our panelists, please. again thanking all our panelists for those valuable insights. I'm sure you found that useful and interesting. Thank you so much, everyone. And with that, we come to the end of our conclave. I'd like to request Mr. Satish Mendon, General Manager, Events and Activations, the Hindu Group, to please join me on stage and deliver the vote of thanks for us.
MSME Growth Conclave. We are the only newspaper to host this event on an MSME day. So this event is very special for us. We had two challenges when we actually thought of hosting this event on 27th of June. One, you all know today India is playing England, the second semi-final match. So we were wondering whether the audience would turn up on this India crazy for cricket match, as we all know. But we are happy. A big shout out to this audience, all the MSME who are present, 250 plus, for gracing this occasion on this MSME day. Thank you all. The second, we also thought whether the panelists would turn up on this special MSME day. And in this, I wanted to thank my BusinessLine editorial core team, Aarti Krishnan, Venkatesh Babu, and Vinay Kamath, who pulled off this fabulous event with a host of panelists for all this lovely audience for a great day on MSME day. For an event of this scale, friends, we actually need huge sponsorship funding. And for this, a big shout out to my Karnataka team, Vidhu Shankar and his entire team, Basav Raj, Makbul, Priya, Gurunath, Priyanka. I think this team did a fabulous job to rope in a dozen sponsors for this MSME day. Also my colleagues from West, Anil Malik and Vedyanathan, who could rope in sponsor for us. Also colleagues from East, Kaustav, who could get us sponsor for this event. A long list of clients who made this day for us. I personally want to acknowledge their support for this day. Presenting sponsor, Aditya Birla Sun Life AMC Limited. Associate sponsor, Canara Bank, SIDBI, ECGC, Government of Karnataka, which is Department of Industry and Commerce, who have supported this event. The luxury real estate partner, which is Purvankara. State partner, Government of West Bengal. Luxury car partner, Akshaya Motors for Mercedes-Benz. Jewelry partner, Navratna Jewelers. Fashion partners, PN Rao. Technology partner, AMD. Also like to thank, as you can see, this great execution is possible because of our events, marketing and operation team. Here I would like to acknowledge Sagar, my colleague who's on the right side, for this great execution with Akash and Vikram and Abhilash from Chennai, who are managing the digital part of this business. So friends, continue reading BusinessLine. You will get to read a lot of content tomorrow. So ensure you buy a copy and read BusinessLine as being a regular reader for us. Thank you so much.
And with this, we'd like to thank each and every one of you. Please give yourselves a round of applause for being our wonderful audience tonight. Thank you so much. Thank you all for making this event a grand success. We now invite you to please join us for cocktails and dinner. Safe travels back home. Good night and God bless. Thank you.